Hey friends, welcome to my channel. Today is a high-end 35 farmhouse DIYs. This is a mega video. I hope you enjoy it. Now let's get crafting. I could not believe that this was originally $1.99 and we are going to do it for way cheaper. Now I'm super excited about this project because this is a brand new product at the Dollar Tree. Run right now to your Dollar Trees and pick these up. Just don't buy all of them so that I can pick some up too. Anyway, they're super cool. They are these spheres that are made out of the metal wiring, and if you've been shopping there for a while, you'll know that they are the same wires that they use for their wreath rings. So what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to cut down this sign. Now it's only because I didn't want to run out to the store and buy another one, because they actually do sell these smaller, but I just need a base for my topiary. So I'm going to cut this down and then I'm going to put one of the sides back on it so I can get the right size for my topiary base. Again, they sell these smaller signs and I just was being lazy and didn't want to drive out to the store. Plus I didn't want to spend another buck. I already had this one and I knew I could cut it down to size. So if you have one on hand that's already smaller, then you're all good to go. But once I got that all figured out and cut down to size, I'm then going to take some E6000 and some hot glue to make sure it holds it in place while the E6000 dries. And then I'm just going to take this candle stem holder and I'm going to hot glue it and E6000 it to one of these plastic pots that they have at the Dollar Tree. Again, all of these supplies are from the Dollar Tree and this is super affordable. I spent $9 to make this thing versus $1.99. Crazy, right? So once I have my base and everything all done, I'm going to take a piece of foam core, and you can see here that it's just a little bit smaller than the base, and I want to be able to make sure that the planter top part and the glass adheres well to the bottom. But if I try to do E6000 or hot glue onto the foam core piece, it's going to eventually pull off and break. So what I've decided to do was trace the base of the candlestick holder, the glass, onto the foam core. I cut it out and then I hot glued that down, and then I took some E6000 and put it on the base that is a thicker, harder surface to be able to hold on to versus that foam core. Added some more hot glue around it and then inserted the glass stem onto the base. This is going to allow it to really dry and bond well. Today for my summer DIY spotlight, I have two channels to share with you all. I would love for you all to go and check them out. One is ran by Barbara Country Lily DIY Decor. She has had her channel for about 2 months and already I'm so impressed with the DIYs that she has been doing on her channel. And then the other one is ran by Christy. She has a very beautiful channel as well. She's been up and running for about 5 months, and another person to definitely check out. Go give them some love and let them know that I sent you their way. They're called wildflowers and I love them. This other flower right here I'm holding was actually around the fall time. I think they carry it all year round. I've seen it for a long time, but I'm going to take off those little greens that you just saw me holding there. Now to make sure your sphere stays in place, you're going to open it up to your liking, and then you're going to take your hot glue and just hot glue it into place. Now I want to create it to look like dried out vines on it over time, like you would see on a regular topiary outside, the stems and the vines. So I'm going to take some twine first and I'm going to just lightly wrap around every single one of its side, and then at the top I'm going to kind of create a balled up effect by looping it around a bit, going back down one side, looping around the bottom, going back up a side, adding more to the top until I get the desired look that I want for this topiary. And then once you're all done, you're just going to cut it down towards the bottom so you don't see any weird, twine sticking out, and hot glue it into place. So here's how the top looks. I think it looks so cute like this, especially when we start adding on all of our greenery and flowers. So you're going to go ahead and just pull off all of your flowers from your bundle stem, the wires, and you're going to cut off the ends to separate them all. You don't want any of them to be clumped together because we want it to look like they're vines trellising up this sphere like you would see outside in a garden. So one by one, you're going to take your hot glue. Don't burn your fingers. I did multiple times. And then you're going to put down a greenery, maybe a flower, maybe some more of that greenery, and you're just going to keep going all the way down, mix matching and just keeping it flowing natural and pretty. And I didn't do it the same length on every single sphere side. Some were less, a little lower, some went all the way up to the very top, that knot that I did with the twine. And you'll see at the very end when I show it all wrapped with all this greenery how you don't want it to be so obviously consistent. You want to kind of make it look like, you know, some are growing better than others, and it makes it look more real and natural. So when someone sees it in your home, they'll think, wow, that's so cool. You have something in your house like that, and you'll say, I made it myself. So here it is, the finished look, and you can see, like I said, some go all the way up to the top and some don't. Now, once everything was dried, I spray painted it black to get that cast iron look like we had as our inspiration. And then I'm going to take just a tiny bit lighter than black, a very, very dark slate gray. I'm just going to lightly dry brush on some of that paint because we want to create that cast iron look, our pot. And then, you know, just add back in some black where you feel like you went a little too light because it's supposed to look like it's black, but you want it to, you know, look like it's cast iron. And then again, because I love this rustic look, and this is kind of the theme of what I'm doing with this video and all these projects, I'm just going back in with some brown paint, lightly tapping the corners here and there, and then blending it in with the black to create that really pretty rustic, out in the weathered air, the sea salt air look. Once everything is all dry and you've gone around all your desired places of your pot, you're ready to start filling it in. So I'm going to take a foam square, cut it down to size, make sure it fits in there really well because we want this to last for a long time. And then I'm going to hot glue it all into place. I'm going to also make sure that I stuff around the sides to make sure that it's really snug in there and being held in well by the hot glue. Another tip is that you don't want it to be too high up there because you don't want it to bump into your topiary. You want to make sure that it's sitting nicely. Now I'm going to slow down for this next part because I want you all to see really well what I'm doing and I don't want to go too fast. So I'm taking a piece of wire, folding it in half, just like this, and then I'm going to put it on the end of the topiary that's going down into the pot. And then going to hold it as close as I can to the topiary sphere, and I'm going to just twist it to create a nice tight twisted piece of wire up at the top. And you're doing this because the topiary itself is going to easily come off if you just only hot glue it or E6000 it. So what I'm doing is I'm creating this wire support, and then I'm putting some glue here on my foam, and I'm going to take that wire and I'm going to shove it down in to the foam, and it's going to help hold it down in there even more snug and secure without it falling out. Then once you've got that in place, you can hot glue around the sides where the sphere touches into the pot, and it'll stay on there for a really long time, and you won't have to worry about it falling apart or rolling away when somebody bumps it. Once you've got that all hot glued in place, you're then going to take some ferns that they also have at the Dollar Tree right now. I'm telling you, the Dollar Tree has so many beautiful florals. I'm so impressed this year. I think you're going to hear me say that a lot in my videos. I'll try to hold back on not making that comment every single time, but I just get so excited with each new season. They keep bringing out better and better things. So you're going to go ahead and put in some of those ferns, and then you're going to also take some of your green moss and fill that in to cover up all the foam. And then I'm just taking some more of these little, you know, wildflower stems, and I'm just kind of putting them in there. Now to finish off that farmhouse nautical beachy look, I'm going to take some of that thick rope and I'm going to just wrap it around the base. The other reason why I decided to do this is it just cleaned up that bottom base look, and I don't know, I personally liked how it looked. You don't have to do this part, but I really liked it. I thought it looked really pretty when it was all done. Then I'm going to take another rope and I'm going to hot glue the back side so it stays in place, and then I'm going to just tie a simple knot on the front, and I'm going to fray out the ends of the rope to create, again, that nautical pretty look. I think I've got that on my mind quite a bit, that farmhouse beach look, coastal look, just because I'm thinking warmer weather. It is so cold right now in Missouri. I'm missing my California weather that I grew up with my whole life. So this is the finished look. And the next craft that we're going to be doing is with this free printable that I designed for all of you to be able to grab. It's linked down below in my description box. Don't forget to grab it before you hop forward. We're going to be taking these printables and some scrapbook paper and some foam core, and we're going to turn them into something really special that is just farmhouse chic. Go ahead and cut out your printable right at that cut line, and once you've got all 3 of them cut out and ready to go, you're going to then take your foam core board and trace them onto that. Here are what the printables look like once they are all cut out and ready to go. So now I'm going to just take that printable, flip it over so it's the backside facing up, and I'm going to just trace on 4 squares. Now you're going to see that I actually did 5, but I decided to go back later on and trace the 5th square once the square was built. So you're going to see in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and cut them all out so that I have these 4 different pieces, and again, you're seeing me cut the 5th piece, but I'm going to cut them all out, and once everything has been X-Acto knifed, I can start assembling my box. We're going to be creating 3 stacking tier boxes, which I just think are the coolest thing ever and a really fun way to get a dramatic height when it comes to decor in your home. We're going to just start putting all of those pieces together. I like to make sure that my pieces all interlock into each other. So I'm hoping this makes sense. On one of the pieces you stick it on the side, and then you move over to the other side and you put it on the inner part. That way so all of the pieces are kind of folding into each other. I don't know if that makes sense. So you're going to see it here where I put it on the side and on the top, and then I'm kind of wedging them into each other. That way so they're nice and secure. And then I'm going back in with some hot glue on the inside of the box and taking a popsicle stick and smushing it all around in there so it's really nice and sturdy. Now see, here's where I'm deciding to go back and cut that 5th piece again. I'm going to make sure I put the box down and then cut it, because I noticed that there was a little bit of a shorted lip on the sides, and I wanted to make sure that it was a full, complete covered top. So once I've got that piece, I went ahead and glued it on, and I was ready to start decorating this box. Now keep in mind I didn't put anything on the bottom, because you want to be able to stack these away when the season is done, or you can keep them out year-round. So I decided to not put anything on the bottom of them so they store nicely and you don't have these big bulky things that you try to store in the future. Then you're going to take some Mod Podge and you're just going to put that right over your box and put on your printable, move around to the other side, put on some scrapbook paper, just make sure everything is nice and snug on there. And then this is the quickest way I decided to do it, was I cut it after I already put it on the box, and then I just Mod Podge it. So now you're going to see that I'm going to move on to the next side. I'm going to add some more of that wonderful glue that I love to use so much in a lot of my videos, and then I'm going to add on the scrapbook paper, and then I'm going to put it down on the cutting mat and cut it once it's already on there. That way so I don't have any wonky cuts and it's perfectly cut to the box. These papers were all from Hobby Lobby and they were on sale. You can get really great deals for scrapbook papers there, and they have some really pretty farmhouse papers. Once you've got those papers all on, everything is Mod Podged and sealed, you're going to take some black and white paint and create kind of like an ombre effect. You don't want it to be super black or super gray or super white. You want it to look old and distressed and weathered. So I'm just kind of going in and just mixing on some paint, and then I'm going to take a paintbrush and add on some little streaks here and there with the brown, and dry brush on some brown in the middle, and just keep playing with it until it looks weathered and distressed. I think that this looks super, super beautiful on a bookshelf somewhere, or maybe a side table. I just think these look so cute, and they give you that really big height, and especially when you pair them next to some florals and some other greenery, it looks so pretty. So again, just keep playing with your paint, have fun with it. This is something that I don't think that is easy to mess up, and you just keep blotting away what you don't like and keep adding more where you do. So now here I'm going to show you where they can all stack inside of each other with the 3 different sizes that we're going to be making today. The template works from the printable. Just trace that out for each of your boxes and you're good to go. I hope you are enjoying this mega compilation video so far. I love doing these here on my channel because it's kind of like an index of different holidays and themes. I post here regularly on my channel, anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week. I love having this channel, so if you are new, don't forget to click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It means so much to me and it really helps out my channel. These are the 3 items that I picked up from my local thrift store. Now these have been sitting on the shelves for some time as I go through and look for new things to pick up and transform, and so I knew that people just don't want to pick these up because they look a little old and outdated. So I'm going to show you all today how I'm going to take these 3 items and turn them into something really special. And each one of them was under $2. And this house first we're going to be working on, I painted it all white to get it a nice coat to cover up all of the patterns and the things that were all over it. And I'm going to just take these popsicle sticks from the Dollar Tree. I'm cutting off the tops and bottoms to make sure that the stick's length is the right size for the house. And then with some hot glue, I'm just going to glue them on to the roof. Now for this part of the house, it has a really weird angle, and how I'm going to be doing that is I'm taking some cardstock. I just laid it flat up against the edge of the roof, and then I traced it and cut it out to create a template so that I can be able to cut out some popsicle sticks that will also work for that space. Now where the roof and that little domer meet up with each other, it's even tighter, and so I'm just taking a piece of cardstock again, and with my nail I'm going to crease down the line to make sure I've got the right size that I need for it. And then I'm also going to make sure that I check my pattern so that way I don't have any issues with them being the wrong size. I think pattern making can be really easy, but if you get it wrong, it can be really tricky. So I'm making sure I'm doing it right. And then I'm going to take some more of those popsicle sticks where I chopped off the tops and bottoms, line them all up, lay down my pattern, and then I'm going to cut out the pieces that I need so that I can glue those last little pieces into place on the roof. I think using popsicle sticks on craft projects are the coolest because it gives you that wood farmhouse look if you love that style, which I do. So I'm just using these popsicle sticks to create a really pretty rooftop on this little house. Once I've got those on the rooftop, I'm then going to go ahead and move on to the domer, or this pointed part of the roof that's a little more tricky, and I'm going to again just keep cutting them out once I've traced them with my pattern and using a lot of hot glue because you don't want them to pop off over time. I'm just gluing them all down really nice and tight, and you can see there that I'm going over the roof line just a little bit to have an overhang so you don't notice the original roof line. You're going to see the popsicle sticks more. Now on the very tops of the roof, I wanted to hide some of those sticks that don't line up super perfectly because I'm using my scissors. I'm just going to take a couple more popsicle sticks at the very tops and create a nice finished look. Once everything is glued onto the top, I went ahead and moved on to the trim of the house. Now when I first started painting this black, I was a little nervous because I don't know why, I just was, and I kept thinking, oh, it would have been really cute if I painted the house blue and did white trim with light wood. So there are lots of different possibilities, but after I just kept following you know, what I was wanting to do in my head, it ended up working out really well. So I painted all the trim black, and then I made a wood stain to go on top of that popsicle sticks, just using some brown, tiny bit of black paint with some water, and I'm just going over those popsicle sticks to create more of a darker wood look. And then as you can see here, I'm holding a napkin underneath it, so any drip off or runnage is going to go right into the napkin versus getting on the white paint of the house. Then on the front of the house, to make it even cuter, I added a door. Followed the same steps where I cut them down to size. I did 4 vertical and then 2 horizontal, and I just love the way it looks. I also wanted to add some little flower boxes to the fronts of the houses, so I again cut down the popsicle sticks. I'm going to take some of this moss, I'm going to glue it on to the little flower box, and then I'm going to add in some little plants to make it look like it's a little flower box on the front of the house. I think at this point the project started to come to life for me. I was still really nervous with the black trim, but as I kept playing with it more and more, I fell in love with this project. I think that's the best part about DIYs, is that it can be a little nerve-wracking when you're first starting, but as you keep playing with things and you personalize them, it starts to come to life, and you can just see, you can imagine where you can put it in your home. I know exactly where I want to put this, which is on my piano. I think that's going to be the prettiest place to put this. Now once I got all of the flower boxes done, I went ahead and created a wreath. I just was going around in a curved motion to create a circle with hot glue. I took it a little bit at a time because you don't want the hot glue to dry. And then I just kept adding moss onto those curved strips of the hot glue that I'm putting down, and then I'm taking some of this boxwood that I cut up from a greenery plant that I had from a long vine, and I'm just adding that on, as well as some little dainty white flowers that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. And once I have them all on here, it looks like this cute little farmhouse wreath, which I just adore so much. Now I could leave it like this, where it's just the flower boxes and the wreath on the front door, but I wanted to embellish the top just a little bit more. So I'm going to take some more of that boxwood from that vine that I had, that I picked up from Hobby Lobby a while ago, and I'm just going to take some of the sprigs, cut them off, and then hot glue them onto the top. I'm doing 2 on each sides. There's 2 that are longer, 2 that are shorter. And then I'm adding a bow to the top to complete the finished look of this house. Alright, we're going to be moving on to this next one, where you saw that I spray painted it black first, then I put down some painter's tape in a little plus sign, and then I spray painted the whole thing white on the inside and out. We're going to be making a first aid kit box. These boxes are all over the thrift stores. I find them all the time, and I thought it would just be so cute. And again, this is a knockoff idea. These boxes, you can find them all over the place online, but they charge so much for them. It's crazy. I think the cheapest I've seen them are 30 bucks. And I just think that's outrageous. I ended up picking up this box again for under $2. So I'm just gonna take some of my stickers from the Dollar Tree. I always like to put them on a ruler or of some kind of a flat surface to make sure I line them all up. I'm just putting down first aid kit, and then I'm taking some Mod Podge to make sure that my stickers don't ever come up. I'm gonna just go ahead and seal them in. And then to make sure that there's not just a weird, you know, paint line there where you see the Mod Podge, I'm going to go over the whole front surface of the box to make sure everything is nice and sealed in and it looks consistent. I'm going to take this tray that again was under $2. I've seen it a ton of times at the thrift store. I knew that this was something that people just did not want to take home, and I thought, you know, I can give it a better personality than what it's at you know, the status of at the moment. And so I'm taking some of this painter's tape and I'm gonna tape off the sides. The curved edges were a little bit trickier and I knew there was probably gonna be some bleed, so I was trying to make sure I got in there nice and tight in those crevices. And once I had that, what I thought was going to be pretty good, I went ahead and figured out the spacing of my stripes and where I wanted them to be. And I went ahead and laid down nice long strips of the painter's tape. This is an important part to make sure your stripes look nice and the same size, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I like to make sure that they're spaced out well. So go ahead and figure out the measurements, lay down those nice straight lines, and then go ahead and cover off the rest of the white tray. I went ahead and spray painted with a dark gray, as you can see here, and then when I pulled back the painter's tape, sure enough, there was some bleed through. And this happens all the time with me with painter's tape, but that's okay. I decided to go back in and touch up a couple little spots because I wanted it to have a nice finished look. Once I touched up everything, I went ahead and let it dry for a few minutes and then took some brown paint with a dry brush technique that I show here a lot on my channel. I love this effect because it really ages things. I went ahead and dry brushed on some brown paint to distress it a little bit more, and then I'm going to take some of this Mod Podge and go ahead and rub that all over. I also forgot to mention I did rough it up with a little bit of sandpaper to give it a nice weathered look. These are the supplies we're going to be using for this DIY today. 2 of the signs from the Dollar Tree, some chalk paint that I got from Joann's with a coupon, and then 3 of the packs of long painter sticks from Home Depot. There are 3 in a pack. We're going to need 9 of them, so that'll be $3 for those painter sticks. Now we're going to remove the tags, push the boards up to each other, just as you see me doing here, and we are going to measure out our painter sticks where we need to cut on those lines. We're going to have 2 shorter ones that are going to be going vertical, and then we're going to have 2 longer ones that are going the length of the board that are going to be going horizontal. So we need 2 and 2 of these to be able to create a frame around these 2 signs. I love these kind of projects because you can take a whole lot of nothing and turn it into something really special. We're going to be making a command center where we have a chalkboard, a place to hang up our keys, and place our mail. So you can see here that I used my hacksaw and my miter box. I'm going to link that down below. It is an Amazon affiliate link, and I do get a small commission if you decide to purchase it through that link. And I appreciate it. Anyone who has ever done that, it means so much to me. But I'll link it down below if you are interested in the one that I have. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just start gluing them on, and you can see that I glued down the top piece first, and then I'm doing the sides, because if you see right there where those spots are ripped up, I tried to do the top and the bottom first, not realizing that it would be better to do the sides, and then the sides weren't fitting in right. So make sure you do the top, the sides, and then the bottom. That way so everything fits perfectly around it and you're not trying to shove pieces of wood into their spots. It just makes it so much easier this way. So go ahead and just place all of your sticks down with some hot glue, and then we're going to take another long painter stick, and you can see that I pushed it down into the actual spacing of the wood because this is going to create the mailbox. So I have one that's going the width, and then we're going to have 2 that are shorter. They're going to go the height of it, and then this is going to allow us to be able to create that box for mail to go in. So you can see I added some glue, I'm placing it in place, and then I'm adding on the sides. Now, here is something I learned as I was doing this. A little bit later you're going to see me paint it. Once you get the box framed out, I highly recommend painting the white part of the inside of the box first before you put on the front of the box. That is the one thing that I wish that I had done, and I ended up having to struggle by putting my paintbrush down in there to get everything white. So at this point you should paint everything white and then come back in and paint once you put the crossbars on the front of it. But you can see here I'm using my staple gun. I'll link this down below too. I love using a staple gun on all my crafts. And then on the back side, you're going to see that I'm just kind of getting a measurement of where those pieces are going to be. And I'm just going to take my staple gun and go ahead and staple on those markers, just so that I don't go through on the other side, because we want to make sure we're securing that front box where we're going to put our mail. This is really easy. I just used a pencil, just kind of marked it, brought it around on the other side. You could use a ruler if you want to, but I didn't want to pull one out, and so I was kind of being lazy. So basically just mark the spots that you think are going to hit right at that front part where the little box for the mail is, and then just staple it on and just keep checking to make sure you didn't go through. Okay, now at this point, like I said, you should paint at this point, but I ended up putting on the front bars first, and like I said, that was a little bit of a regret, because you'll see in a minute that I'm going to struggle painting the inside. Once you've got those on, you can go ahead and staple them down and secure them into place. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the painting, and you're going to see here where I'm having to, like I said, shove my brush down in there to get that area painted. So learn from my mistake on this part, but painting is really fun. I always find this part super therapeutic. I love painting things. I don't know what it is about painting, but I just love painting. So here I am, I'm taking some white paint and I'm just gonna go over all the wood. You could stain this if you wanted to. That could be really beautiful too. You don't have to just use white. You could use a color, you could stain it. But once you've got that part all done, you're gonna go ahead and take your chalk paint and you're going to go right at that seam line between those two boards, and you're just gonna paint a nice thick layer of chalk paint on so that you can use chalk on this. Now we're going to take these hooks. I picked these up from the Home Depot. They were quite a few of them in a pack, and I think they were like $4. I could be wrong, but it's something right around that price. And then I just marked out where I wanted my hooks to be, and I'm using my drill to pre-drill the holes. It makes it much easier putting in these little hooks. And then you're just going to screw them right in. You could add a little wood glue if you want to keep them in there permanently. That's a great option too. But you're going to go ahead and just screw them all in so they're nice and tight. And if you start having a problem screwing them in, you can always use some pliers. And then I took one of these garden tags. I'm going to scrape off some of the paint so that the bond is really, really nicely put onto the front of this sign. And we're going to just glue it right on. I'm going to use some hot glue for that. And then I thought it would be really cute if I were to write on there with some paint, or I guess paint on it, the word mail. I just loved the way that that looked. I thought this was so cute. I can't believe how much Pottery Barn sells these things for. You can seriously make them for pennies. At this point, I have spent probably about $6. Now at this point, I'm just adding in hooks at the top. I took those original golden hooks and I closed the opening so it's a rounded closed piece, and I'm screwing them right in so you can hang it up at your back door and put all of your things in it. Today I have something fun to share for all of my friends who want to participate in these DIYs but do not feel comfortable having a YouTube channel. Over on Instagram, my friend Shayna and I are teaming up to host a Dollar Tree DIY tour. Come on over to my account and I will give you all the information. All you have to do is send me a private message and I will give you the scoop on how we're doing the Dollar Tree tour, where you can post an image and join a group almost like a playlist, but over on Instagram. If you're interested, come on over to Instagram and send me a message and I'll give you all the information. I'm going to take this 6x6 plaque that you can pick up at the Dollar Tree. They have all sorts of these over in their framing section, and I'm going to cover it up with some paint to give it a chalk finished look. I'm just taking some white and some black paint, mixing it together to create a dark slate gray color. Then I'm going to just simply go over it really quickly, the whole thing, making sure that it's nice and covered. I'm not worrying about the inside. I do sometimes like to paint the inside, so just know that if you want that nice finished look on both sides, you can paint both sides. Then once you've got it all covered and it's drying over to the side, you're going to take some of these wildflowers that they have right now at the Dollar Tree. These are some of their new spring flowers that they're bringing out. I cut off all of the greenery stems, and this is how I create a cool vine from the Dollar Tree where you can get a nice look with this. I think this is the coolest technique to do this. I figured this out a couple days ago on a project. I love to just put some glue on the end and glue the petals onto each other, and it makes a nice long vine. Once you've got those glued together and they're off to the side drying, and you've made it as long as you want, you're then going to take a ruler, and again, if you have a silhouette, you can always cut these out on your silhouette, but I want everybody to see that you don't have to have one of those machines to be able to make a pretty sign. You're going to just simply take a ruler with a pencil, sketch on a saying or phrase that you like, or a quote, whatever it is, and then you're going to take a small tip brush and you're going to go over the letters and just take your time and have fun with it. I've had so many people asking me about how I hand paint my letters, and it just is something I've practiced for many years, and it's such a fun project to do when you're just sitting and watching TV to practice to get better and better at. And it really is the truth. The more you practice your hand painting with your letters, the better you will get. I think hand painted letters are so pretty, and it's such a personalized look and touch to your projects. So you can just see how I'm just taking my time here. I'm not rushing through it. And this is a great project. Like I said, put on a movie, put on some music, and just have a good time just painting them. And if you ever make a mistake, you can always add the same color back onto it, paint it, and then start all over again. So I highly recommend trying it and picking up this skill. It's such a fun thing if you don't have a cutting machine. Now, once that vine has been sitting for a little bit and it's nice and dry, we're then going to turn it into a little mini wreath. I like to use some hot glue on the leaves to pinch them together onto the vine pieces. Once you've got that, then you can wrap it and twirl it all around into a circle, and then take some ribbon from the Dollar Tree, loop it at the top, and then with some more hot glue, you're going to find your placing and put it right onto the top of your frame. You want it so that the little wreath is going to allow it to circle around your painting on the front of it with your phrase or your quote, and then just bring that ribbon up around the top and the back, and then make sure you hot glue everything into place so that it looks nice and finished. You don't see the top of the ribbon. Have it go back around the back side and glue it down. For this DIY, we are going to use some of these cutting mats from the Dollar Tree. There are 2 in a pack, and friends, I love these cutting mats because it gives you the stiffness without it being unable to mold and move around. So these cutting mats are so fantastic to make some really cute home decor stuff if done properly. Now, I made some galvanized tin buckets with this a while ago, and they were a total success. I was so happy with how they turned out, and I have them hanging downstairs in my basement. But today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be making some of these round metal balls that you see a lot in boho farmhouse decor. I even see it in farmhouse decor, a more modern twist to it. I just love them. I think they're so cool, and I figured out that these cutting mats are perfect for it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our first straight line, and then we're going to just continue to make lines going all the way across. Now I'm doing about I'm going to say a little bit over a ½ inch, not too wide. You don't want it to be too wide. So let's just say like a ½ inch, and you can just kind of play with that as the thickness as you want. But once I've got one cut out, I'm just going to use it as my template to make all the rest. And you can see here that I'm just making a whole bunch of lines using a Sharpie marker, because that does not matter. We're going to paint this black at the end. Now you're going to go ahead and take your scissors and you're going to cut them all apart so you have a whole bunch of strips. And once you've got all your strips, I decided to switch over to this purple mat so that you could see it better, just because I have a white table. And then you're going to go ahead and start playing around with the thickness and the size of the ball that you would like. Once you figure out the thickness that you want, go ahead and start using your staple to go ahead and staple it all together. Now this is the cool part about this, is that all you need is basically the cutting mat and a staple. And I'm going to make a large ball and a smaller ball for the cost of 50 cents. Now these home decor pieces can run anywhere between $15 to $30 depending on the size of them. And I'm going to make 2 of them for 50 cents because I'm not using both of the mats. I'm using one mat to make a large and a small ball. So for the larger ball, you can see here that I'm taking 2 of the strips and I'm going to just make sure I staple them on both sides. You want to make sure everything's laying as smooth and flat as possible because if it's not, it's going to cause some bunching. So once you've got the first circle done, you're going to go ahead and start the second, and I just used it to measure around to make sure everything was the same size. And then you're going to need to create a few of these. So you can see here that I've got 3 and I'm just positioning how I want them to be. I'm stapling them in place. And I will say that as you go further and further and the more you keep adding on to it, it can be a little bit trickier to staple it. But don't be afraid of this project, because if it does have an issue, you just pull the staple back out if it gets a little crimped and it doesn't go all the way through, and then you can just keep repositioning it until you get a nice clean punch all the way through and it's nice and in place. So you can see here that I had a little bit of an issue with that, and it was just playing with it until I got the motion of it. And then it's funny because the first one that I did, I struggled a little bit more, but by the second one, I felt like I had learned what I was doing and I was really jamming through the smaller one. It was much easier for me to make it. So once you've got those 3 crossing circles, the sphere, you're now going to take a long one and you're going to go around the middle part just like I'm doing here to connect it all together. And at this point it's ready to be taken outside. You can spray paint it whatever color you want. You could do silver and do a galvanized look to it, but I decided to go with black because, like I said, I just love that modern farmhouse look for this particular project. Now for the smaller ones, I'm going to take those original existing strips and I'm actually going to cut them in half. So now they're more of a 1/4 of an inch thick, and I'm going to add on my circles. We're going to repeat the same exact process. Now you can put as many circle loops as you would like to create your circle. I decided on this one to do 4 because I thought that that would look really nice, being that it's smaller and I wanted to have more detail to it. But once you basically have gotten them all the way around and stapled, you're then going to take your outer strip just like we did on the big one, and we're going to staple that into place. So just make sure you take your time, make it look as straight as you possibly can, sneak your staple in there wherever you can, and then just tighten it. And when you're done, take them outside and spray paint them, and you can display them in your home. Super cute. We're going to take these painter sticks that I picked up from Home Depot. They have 10 in a pack. I think they're about $1.50 for the pack. I picked up 2 of them, 2 of those packs, and then one of these wood hearts from the Dollar Tree. You're going to open up those painter sticks and you're going to lay out 13 of them together just like I'm doing here. And this is because we want to create a big enough surface for our heart to be able to be placed on them to create a really pretty farmhouse Valentine's Day sign. Once you've got 13 of them in a row and you like how they're spaced out, so it has that shiplap feel to it, you're then going to take some more painter sticks, break them down so that they fit the length that you have, and you're going to just lay them on, again with the spacing that you like, and hot glue them into place. Once you've got those all hot glued into place, you're then going to flip it over on the other side and add some more to give it more sturdy support so that this doesn't break. I like to make sure that things are really, really strong whenever I use these. So you're going to see that I'm putting it on both sides, and then in a second you're going to see that I'm going to also use a staple gun to really make sure everything is all strong and in place and it doesn't break if you ever drop it. Now, I get asked all the time about my staple gun. I'm going to link it down below. I bought it from Amazon. I love this thing. It's great for your craft room if you just want to be able to staple something together really quickly. And I'll also link the staples. They come with different sizes. And how I get the right staple size, I just hold it up to the actual product just to make sure that it's the right size. Then I'm going to take some white paint and some water in a cup, and I'm just going to whitewash my really cute background for this project. I think it has a really great shiplap feel to it. So I'm going to come back in again with that black and brown wood stain that I did earlier to show you all that you can create with paint. And then you're just going to go over your heart, the whole thing. Now you're going to see that when I was picking it up, I actually had a white painted thumb. You can see it right there on the heart. Sometimes that happens where you touch things, and it's okay. We're going to cover it up with a bow in a few seconds here on this project, but go ahead and go over the whole heart with that wood stain that we created. And then once you've got the sides all covered and the top all covered, you're going to let it sit over to the side and let it dry for a few moments. Now I wanted to create more of a distressed wood, beech wood look to it, so I'm going to take some light gray. This was a clay gray that I picked up from Walmart, and then you're just going to lightly dry brush all over it just to distress it a little bit more and to create more of a beachy weather feel. You could paint this wood whatever color you want. If you wanted to go really traditional, you could do pink and red. It's up to you as the artist to be able to play with the colors. I've had a couple people say, why so much farmhouse look on my projects, and it's really just what's trending right now, but I have some other projects coming up in the future that are not going to be so farmhouse. So to support our heart in the middle, you're then going to take another one of these painter sticks. You're going to staple it down with some hot glue as well, and then you're going to put your heart right onto it. And I want to make sure that this really stays on well, so I'm going to put some hot glue first. And this heart is going to cover up those seams where we brought together those painter sticks. And then you're going to take your staple gun and you're going to staple it on the sides where your bow is going to be covering them up. So I'm using 3 staples on it, 1 in the center where that middle part is and 2 on the other side. And then this bow is going to go right on it so you don't even see those staples anymore, and it has a really pretty clean finished look. Now I've had so many people asking, where is the bow video? It's coming, I promise. I'm actually going to be posting it. I think it's February 10th. It's a Monday, so keep a lookout. It is coming. Now, if you didn't know, I also have another channel called Heidi Sonboul Home. Over on that channel, I take a lot of the DIYs from this channel and I use them to decorate my home all throughout the different seasons. I have so many fun things coming up on that channel for the fall and the Christmas season where I'm going to be decorating my home, and there's going to be lots of fun things to check out, new episodes and new series. So come on by and click the subscribe button there as well. For this DIY, I am going to be using a plunger, these 2 cute crates that they have in the craft section at the Dollar Tree, and then some leftover long painter sticks that I've cut down to size that are left over from a previous project. We're going to take some wood glue and some hot glue and put it all over one of the sides of these crates, and then we're going to just bring them together because we're going to be creating a super cute summer tray that is so farmhouse inspired, and it's super easy because they already have these crates at the Dollar Tree and they have so many of them. They have different things on the sides as cut out. Now I'm going to go with these long painter sticks to create the handle right at the star point. I'm just going to center it right in the middle of the box, adding some hot glue and some wood glue. Again, like I like that long-term, short-term hold so it really is built well. And then we're going to just put that right on the center just like I did the other one. And then we can go ahead and create the crossbar up at the top. That's where our plunger comes in handy. We're going to cut off the screwed end that's engraved into the wood, and then we're going to cut off the other side so we get the right sizing, and then use some sandpaper to sand it down. Now I'm using my drill to pre-drill a hole so that it doesn't splinter the wood on my handles for my painter sticks, because that can happen. Screwing in the screws, And then I'm going to use my staple gun to go in and just make sure I secure the bottom just a little bit better, because I like things to have a nice strong hold. Our next step is now to take some water, some brown paint and some black paint, and mix it together to create a wood stain. Now I know we could use regular wood stain for this, but I just like using this so much more because I can wash it off my hands really easy and I don't even have to wear gloves. But for summertime, I really have been digging on a darker wood. I just think that this is so pretty for the summertime. Now you can stop at this point, or you can distress it and take a little further, like you know I like to do it here on my channel. So once it was all dried and nice and dark, I went in with a little bit of white paint and simply distressed the sides. Now we're going to be taking some painter sticks and we are going to move on to the next DIY. I'm using 3 packs of the smaller painter sticks that you can get from your home improvement store, and each one has 10 inside of it. We won't be needing all of them, but we're going to get close to using all of them. So first what we're going to do is we are going to lay out our painter sticks the length of an actual painter stick. And you're going to want to make sure you have them all facing the same direction so that you can cover up those little handles where you can see them divoting in. We don't want that to be seen, because what we're doing right now is we're going to be creating almost, we're going to call it a barn door. That's what we're going to go with. A really cute barn door. And we're going to do 2 sides just like you saw me do there. And now we're going to glue them together in the middle. So we're going to take a lot of hot glue at this point and we're going to just give a nice coating on it. And then we're going to take another painter stick and we're going to lay that right on it to make sure it has a nice support system in the middle so it doesn't have any problems. Once it's dry, you can go ahead and flip it over. You can see that I put a popsicle stick under, I said popsicle stick, painter stick. I use so many wood sticks here on my channel, sometimes I do that. But you can see that I put one underneath it to create a little support system underneath it so it could lay flat. And then on the front, like you saw there, I put 2 at an angle to create a Z zigzag look on it. And now I'm going to use my staple gun and I'm just going to staple on the back side anywhere where there's a connecting point, so that way it's really strong and sturdy. At this point, it should be all strong with the staples and the hot glue, and you can go ahead and add whatever color you want to it. You could do red, which could be really pretty, where it's got that pretty barn door look. I'm going to go with white because, well, I like white, and I think you all know that. So I'm going to add on a pretty coat of white paint, and I do go in a little bit later and distress it. I forgot to film that part, but basically paint it whatever color you want. Now at this point, I'm going to use this ribbon. I picked this really thick ribbon up after all of the Christmas sales were going on at the end of Christmas last year. I highly recommend, when Christmas is done, go to your craft stores and buy this ribbon. You can get tons of it for so cheap. I think I ended up spending like $3 for this huge roll of this beautiful, beautiful burlappy type ribbon. And then I just took 2 really long strands of it, and I'm now going to take some eucalyptus. I also picked this up right now while they have all of their spring florals, just basically giving it away for free. I ended up buying this for, I think it was like $1.30 for this eucalyptus stem, and they were originally almost $13. I could not believe how cheap I was getting these. So right now is a good time to go and check out the florals. And then this really cute cotton stem actually came from the Dollar Tree, friends. This is a new product the Dollar Tree is carrying. I love these things so much. I've picked up a whole bunch of them, so you'll be seeing them here a lot. Run to your stores, see if you can find them because they're so pretty and high quality. And then I simply am just taking the 2 ribbons that I put underneath it, I did a simple loop over. I didn't even knot it. I just looped it over and then brought them down and glued things in place. And now I'm just kind of playing with it, adding in a little bit more eucalyptus, maybe another cotton stem, maybe some of the little greenery that comes off of the eucalyptus, and just playing with it until I feel happy with the look. Then at the end, go ahead and trim the ribbon and display. Our supplies are really simple. 2 chalkboards from the Dollar Tree, and then you're going to need 2 bundles with a little bit extra over, so 23 of these painter sticks that you can get from your home improvement store. And we are going to be making a really cute crate that you can write on the front of it to customize it, whatever you have storing inside of it. And it's going to be so easy to use. We're going to be using this little portable miter box that I use all the time here on my channel, and my little hacksaw. So what I'm doing right now is I'm creating a mitered edge frame around my board. Now you could always just do straight lines, but I really love the idea of pushing my creativity, like I talk about on my channel here a lot, where I want to miter the edges to give it that more custom high-end look. So first I'm going to have 2 longer ones with the mitered corners, and now I'm just measuring out the sides that I need for 2 smaller ones for the smaller side of the chalkboard. So once you've got all those cut out, you're going to add some glue, hot glue or wood glue, whichever you prefer. I'm just using hot glue because I'm going to come back in on the back side of it once I'm all done stapling everything together with some hot glue and some wood glue at that point, and that's going to really secure it and strengthen it. So at this point you can see that I've glued my frame all together and I've glued on my chalkboard, and now I'm just deciding what size staple I will need inside my staple gun, and then I'm just going to load that right inside and then start stapling everything that I need. I love using my staple gun. You see me use it here a lot on my channel because it really does help you create high-end DIY looks for almost nothing. And it's amazing when you go to home decor stores and you see that the supplies they use are basically what I'm using here in this video. You can make so many cool things using a staple gun and a miter box. So here I am, I just stapled them all together so it's nice and strong at this point. And then in just a second we're going to go ahead and start adding on the actual crate itself. So at this point just make sure you line everything up because you want to make sure your lines are nice and straight as possible. Otherwise you can have something look a little wonky and then things won't line up as well. So here I am, I'm just adding on the last piece of my frame for my other chalkboard. And you could technically just only do one chalkboard on one side if you want, but I just loved the way it looked with having the chalkboard on both sides and thought that this would be so cute to be able to write whatever you want on it, that the supplies you have inside of it. You could use it in a pantry, you could use it in a closet, you can even put it out just as decor. I just think these are so stinking cute. So once you've got the 2 of them all stapled together and they're nice and strong, you're going to go ahead and lay out your sticks, your painter sticks, deciding on what length you want and how much spacing you want at the bottom. I went ahead and did, let's count, 7. I had 7 at the bottom. I had to think there for a second. 7 at the bottom and 4 on the sides. So this is why I came up with using 23 of these painter sticks. And each one of these painter sticks packs that you can get from your home improvement store, there's 10 inside a pack. So I just ended up picking up 3. So the total cost to make this was under $5 because I didn't use that full pack of that 3rd painter sticks because I only used 3 of them. So here I am at this point, I'm just lining them up onto the side. Now I will say the first couple shots that I did on this, I missed it, but your staple gun is going to have a little marker line on the side, and if you line that up to the wood, you'll be able to see exactly where it needs to shoot in, and it'll be able to clear it without having it coming out on either side, and it works perfect. So you can see here that I'm actually in my groove. I ended up getting the staple just right, and it was going through each time, and I keep checking underneath to make sure it didn't slip through, and it was all stapled together nice and strong. Now at this point I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the bottom. And I did the two sides first because I wanted to make sure that those were not kind of wonky at the end. Those are your jumping points for being able to make sure everything else is spaced nicely. And then once you go ahead and get those, you can staple on the rest. Now at this point, you have created yourself the cutest crate ever. And I'm going to take some wood glue, like I mentioned. The Dollar Tree is actually carrying wood glue now in their crafters corner, which I'm so excited about. So I'm going back in with some wood glue in all of the spaces, and I'm just going to make sure it's nice and glued together. And I let it dry. Once it was dry, I went ahead and took some white paint, and I went ahead and painted the thing all over with white paint wherever the wood was. I wanted some of the wood to still show through, so I was kind of doing more of a whitewash on it because I thought that that would be really cute. But how adorable could this be if you painted it whatever color you wanted for the room that you're putting it in? It could be so cute in a little girl's room if you paint it pink, or a boy's room if you paint it blue. So many options. Today the supplies are going to be 2x4 pieces of wood that we're going to cut down to size. The cutting is super simple. I'm using my brand new saw table. I'm so excited I finally have invested in one of these. I've been saving up for a while and finally got one. And I'm just using straight cuts and a 45-degree angle cut. Now this wood is actually really old wood, which is why I'm needing to sand it down really well, because it came from the wall in between my living room and kitchen. Most people would see that wood as trash, but for myself, I saw it as a treasure. And so I've been holding on to it. And when I realized, oh, I can make cute little houses out of it, I definitely knew what wood to be using. And so basically these houses are going to cost me pretty much nothing other than the cost of paint and painter sticks that we're going to be using, since this wood came from our house. Now, I had so much fun with this part because I love painting. I've always loved painting. I love just, you know, getting my hands dirty and just playing with whatever mediums that I'm working with when it comes to painting a project. So for the houses, I painted a few of them white, and then I'm going to go in with some more fun colors because this is my coastal week here on my channel. And I'm going to be adding in some coral, some really creamy, pretty citrusy orange, and then a really pretty mustard yellow. I thought that these would look so cute all together with them being distressed some. Almost think like a little village next to a seaport, the coast. I just think there's something so cute about them, and it makes me think that they're summery. Plus the colors lend really well going into fall time. And because I have so much wood from that wall, I'm actually planning on making a ton more of these with different colors throughout the year because I just love these that much, I guess. Now for the rooftops, I'm going to take the long painter sticks because they're a little bit thicker than the smaller ones. And I'm going to just cut them down to size for my rooftops. A tip about these painter sticks, make sure when you're putting them up on the house that has the peak right in the middle, you're going to want to make sure that you kind of overlap the house roof up at the top just a little bit. And you'll see it towards the end of the video, but you just want to make sure your roof line, they match up perfectly up at the top. So one side needs to be just a tiny bit longer than the other side so that they come together nicely at the top of your roof. And then as you can see here, I've painted them all different colors because I just thought it was so cute to have this different interest in all these different houses and make them look so unique to themselves as if you would see it in a little town. And then for this particular house, how I cut the wood, I stood it up on its side and then did my 45-degree angle cut so that the roof line is coming out more of a shingled roof out towards the front. I thought that that was a cute touch just to turn the direction of my cut lines. And then I'm just adding on 2 pieces up here at the top that are the same width for my painter sticks. And then I'm going to just come on into the other houses where they are going to be meeting up at the top, as you can see here. I'm taking one that's a little bit longer, like I mentioned, and one that's a little bit shorter, and just perfectly lining them up there at the top. Now for my glue, I'm using wood glue and hot glue for that short-term, long-term hold. I really like the idea of doing both of them just because it really does allow you to have a nice quality finished project versus over time if you were to drop them, they could just pop right off with hot glue. So I really like to use a little bit of wood glue anytime I'm ever working with glue. Now the crazy thing is, because these all came from my walls pretty much, I'm spending basically pennies to make these, and people charge so much. Now we're going to take some tongue depressor sticks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just cut them down to size to create some really darling doors. This actually felt like the perfect size for these little houses. I love the width size of them, and so I'm just going to cut them at all different angles, and then I'm going to take some drywall nails. I found that these ones were the closest look to a chimney that I could get because the top of the head was a little bit wider because it's for drywall, and I just went ahead and added a couple of nails in each one. Some of them only got one, and it was to create a chimney smokestack look to them. I just think that this was such a cute detail, and again, pennies to make these. I have been seeing these on Etsy, and people are selling these like a set of 3 houses for so much money. Friends, again, you can tell that the wood was free. The painter sticks cost $1 for 3 of them. Paint, you probably already have it. Popsicle sticks, tongue depressor sticks, again, you probably already have it. These things cost pennies, and when I see that they're being sold for 40, 50 bucks, I just feel like, oh friends, save your money. Unless you don't want to make them and it's easier just to buy them, then I support your decision. But I just want you all to see that taking something like some scrapped leftover wood really can make such a huge impact. Now here on my houses, I'm going to add some windows. My husband was kind of making fun of this house in particular. He's like, do the people on the 2nd and the 3rd floor not get windows? Which made me laugh, but I personally like them spread out. So every house, just have fun with it and just create windows that you love. These are the supplies we're going to be using for our DIY today. 2 buckets from the Dollar Tree and some vinyl cutouts. Now, this idea came to me from Julie's story. She sent me some inspiration that she really wanted to see turned into a craft from the Dollar Tree. So what we're going to do is we are going to take those buckets and we are going to spray paint the inside a dark gray and then spray paint the outside a light tan. And now at this point, we're going to start bringing in that distressing, that wood texture. So we're going to be dry brushing on 2 different shades of a light tan, and then we're also on the inside as well going to be doing some galvanized distressing inside of it too. Now I want to say to all my friends who are not Cricut owners yet, I don't want you to feel like you're going to miss out on this craft. So what we're going to do is there's going to be a printable down below of the stacked up animals, so you can always cut them out and trace them on or Mod Podge those on, so you'll have some options to be able to play with it. But I do highly recommend, if you could ever save up for one, having a Cricut is so fun because you can just do so many cool things with it. So with that being said, let's get back to our buckets and our projects. So you can see here at this point, I'm now adding in some lighter galvanized shading and I'm just tapping it. And then at this point, I'm now going to take a small brush and go along the edge just to clean it up. Now here I am using my cow, my pig, and my rooster, and I'm just stacking them on top of each other. And I will say that the transfer tape at this point can be a little tricky because the plastic from the trash can, when you spray paint and paint on top of it, it's not fully sealed to that plastic yet. And it could just be because I was being impatient and not letting it dry all the way. But I will say that using the transfer tape was a little bit tricky on this part using my cutouts. But again, being able to cut this out on the Cricut was pretty awesome because it was able to go really quick. And I ended up finding these little animals on their online site. So on one side you can see that I've got my cow, my chicken, and my rooster, and then on the other side I have got my star. And you can see as I'm pulling back that transfer tape that it did pull it up a little bit, but it was no worry because I just went back in and touched up that spot where it had a problem. And then for my letters, for my farmhouse letters, I'm gonna go ahead and just take those off and just stick them on into the place that I want, just because they're so big and bulky. I figured that those would transfer pretty easy. I definitely do like using the transfer tape when I do use the Cricut, just because it allows me to be able to get little tiny things on without having to reposition things like they should be. But these larger things, they're really great to be able to just pick it up without the transfer tape, and you still get the benefit of using the cutouts. So at this point, I'm now going to take a very small brush and I'm going to just go around the bucket, just like from our inspiration buckets that we saw, where there is this shiplap look to it. And I'm just going to make a nice thin line, a little bit messy because I like that look, and I'm just going to go all the way around. You could be more meticulous about this if you want to, but I really ended up loving how it had a little bit of thicker and thinner lines here and there as I went around. Now at this point we need to figure out how to make some handles for our buckets, just like from the inspiration. So I'm taking these garden stakes, and a lot of Dollar Trees are still having some of these hanging around just because the whole thing that went down where stores were closed. So I've noticed that there's still a lot of spring stuff. So I'm just going to cut them down to size. I need 4 of them, and you can see here that I'm kind of using my pliers to measure out the sides so that they're all the same bent length. And then once I've got the sides bent, I'm going to make sure that they're angled in just a tiny bit, not too much, because I wanted it to have the exact same look as the inspiration. So I'm bending them in, and then at this point I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to mark where I'm going to drill some holes. That way so I don't have to struggle trying to cut through the plastic with a craft knife or anything like that. And now I'm just going to simply drill right through it. And I'm going to use my drill by going back and forth just a little bit to widen the hole so that the handle is going to be able to fit down in there nice and neat. Then once you've got those holes drilled, go ahead and slip in your handle. And then you're going to bend back the metal. Now I will say that these pieces of wire are pretty strong, so make sure you have a good pair of pliers, and once you've got it bent back you can clamp it down into place and it doesn't move at all. They're strong, sturdy handles. And now I'm going to take some Mod Podge and seal the whole bucket so that way it's all in there nice and sealed, not having any issues if it gets scratched. The Mod Podge is going to make it really strong and have a beautiful finished look. First, I'm going to take these really darling mini candle stem holders. I think that's what they are. I'm going to link the product down below. This little birdhouse, again, I'll link it down below where I can. And then these popsicle sticks I picked up from the Dollar Tree. Start by cutting off any ribbon that might be at the top of these mini birdhouses. I love this one because it had a little heart. And then I'm going to take some E6000 and I'm going to put it on 2 sides of this little mini candlestick holder, and I'm going to then take some hot glue on the other 2 sides. This is to make sure that it really holds in place nicely over time and it doesn't break off very easily. The hot glue dries much quicker than the E6000 to hold it in place, and when the E6000 dries then it's really held in place nicely. And then I'm going to take some white paint. And you can do this with any color for Valentine's Day. You could do a pink or red, it's up to you. But I'm going to go with white because I just love the look of white in my home. And once I've got it all painted, I'm then going to take these popsicle sticks. I think you can do so many amazing things with popsicle sticks. I really love the look of them on craft projects because it gives you that wood element and you can get it for such a cheap price. Go ahead and cut it down to size. And then just line them up so you know what size you need on the other ones, and then with some scissors just snip off those pieces. Then I'm going to create some wood shingles on top of this little birdhouse, and it really elevates the look versus it just being, you know, a traditional little birdhouse that you would see at a craft store. I love doing this to these little houses because you can really customize them and make them look so cute and special for your home decor. Once you've got one side done, you're going to go ahead and just do the other side as well. Once again, trace the pieces that you need, snip off the ends. Cutting them cracks me up because these things kind of shoot off everywhere, so just be aware of that when you're doing this project. You could cut them into like a towel or a cloth of some kind so they don't shoot off all over the place. And then once you've got those all glued in place, to finish off the top of the roof line, you're going to take two more thin pieces. You're going to cut them down to size and put them on opposite side to create a really nice finish on top of your roof. When you've got those glued into place and they look nice and finished, you'll get to move on to either leaving the wood raw, or you could paint it or stain it or whatever. Now look at how nice and finished the top of it is. So you just put some hot glue and then put two of them butted up to each other going the opposite direction. Once you've got those all in place, I took some black and brown paint. I used the majority of brown paint with a little dot of black just to darken it up some, to give it more of a farmhouse finish stain versus it just being brown. I like to add just a little bit of black, tiny little dot, and then I'm using some water to make it into like a whitewash type of a stain. So instead of having to, you know, go out and buy actual stain, this is my best way that I get around doing it. And so many of you have given so many great tips on how to create a stain look with paint. This is my personal favorite way to do it because it's super cheap and cost efficient. And then I just take a small brush and I just go over all of the popsicle sticks, making sure I don't miss a spot. See how pretty it is when you use the black and the brown mixed combo together? It just looks so nice. These are the supplies we're going to be using: 1 pack of long barbecue skewer sticks and 2 grass hula skirts from the Dollar Tree. We're going to take 3 foam squares from the Dollar Tree and glue them together as well. This is going to become our support system to be able to hold up our long skewer sticks. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a cut line where I know that I want all of them to be the same height. And then I'm going to use some pliers to just cut them and break them all apart. And we're going to need quite a few of these. I'm not going to give the exact number because I want you to be able to make the size you want. You can either do it really big or really small. It's depending on whatever size you want, and the possibilities of these baskets are endless. So you can see here that I am using 1 skewer stick and I'm getting 2 out of it because I'm cutting them down to size. And then what I did was I put my 2 longest ones out to the side and then I'm filling them in. So I have 2 long ones out to the side, they're kind of tilted out, 2 in the middle, and then there's 4 in between each of those joints. And then as you see from the top view, it creates an oval shape. That way we can create an envelope basket. Now we're going to take our hula skirt, and you can see that I'm just sliding these little knotted long pieces of raffia, or I guess hula skirt grass that they want to say it is. We need 6 of them, and so I'm just taking them, unwrapping them, and then I'm just gonna lay them all nice and flat so I can gather together 6, because every time you have 6 you're going to be able to weave them onto our skewer sticks. So right now, to start, I twisted it really tight just to make sure I had a nice knot to begin. I'm going to just knot that right around on one of the spots. And then once I've got that there, I'm going to go ahead and just start going in and out, in and out, in and out, all the way around the skewer sticks. Come up at the top, it's the easiest way to do it. I like to hold my finger down there at the bottom as I'm trying to weave back and forth, so that way things don't pop off. In the beginning, it is a little bit tricky getting it started just because the skewer sticks are not glued in. You do not want to glue them in, because when we're done, we're going to pull them off, and I'm going to show you that step on how to finish the bottom side of your basket. But right now we're just doing the weaving part. So you can see here that I'm going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And as you're going, you're going to start noticing that there's going to be a pattern. You want to be on one side of the stick, and then the next side when you pass it around the second loop, when you come all the way around the track. So at the end of your raffia, your long, I guess, hula skirt grass, you're going to want to make sure you're always tying back on the next section. So you can see here that I took the end that I was weaving with, and then I took 6 more, and I just tied a simple knot, made sure it was nice and tight enough, not too tight. You don't want a really obvious knot, but tight enough to hold it in place. And then I cut off the extra, and then as you're weaving it, those knots should just naturally fall on the inside when you're weaving it. Just make sure you're securing it towards the inside of the basket so you don't see the knots on the outside. And I just keep playing with this. This project was really fun, and surprisingly, it only took me, I'm going to say, probably about 40 minutes to do this. It really wasn't bad at all. I actually had something on I was watching on the Hallmark channel, since Hallmark's doing all their Christmas movies right now. So I thought, oh, I'll just watch a movie while I'm doing this. And it went really quick, and I was so impressed that I was able to make a basket out of just hula skirts and shish kebab sticks. Not shish kebab sticks. I always want to call them that. You all know that if you've been here for a while. Skewer sticks. So here I am. I'm just going to continue to create this pattern over and over again until I get to a height that I like. And at this point, just so you can see the details, this is what it looks like. It looks exactly like a basket, friends. Exactly. Can you believe this? Out of a grass skirt and some skewer sticks. Now at this point, you can see that I have decided to stop. I really like the look of my basket right at this point, and I'm taking some hot glue, and this is how we're going to finish off the top to look really nice and polished. We're taking some hot glue and sticking it underneath the grass that we've weaved on, and we are going to just glue it all into place onto the sticks. This is going to create it to be nice and strong without anything falling off and having any issues. And you notice that I did that top part before I pulled off the bottom, because I want to make sure it's nice and secure and in place. Then at the bottom, you're going to just pull back what you have weaved onto those sticks. Pull the sticks out gently from the foam, and then repeat the process as well at the bottom, making sure you're gluing everything into place so everything is nice and snug. I didn't go crazy with the glue. I just put a couple little dots and make sure I push things down so that they would all hold into place. And then once that was all secure, I could go in and I could cut off the rest of the sticks. I also forgot to mention, when I went around that space with the sticks one last time weaving, I made sure I tied a knot, and then I cut off the extra of that raffia grass so that way it was nice and finished, and then I tucked the knot down in and glued that into place. Now that everything has been secure and it's over to the side, we're going to work on braiding some of this long raffia grass. I just took a knot, tied it at the top of several pieces of it, and when you're making your basket, I used about 1.5 grass skirts to make the basket part. And then this over here was what was left over. I used about 1/4 of the leftover of the grass skirt to be able to create this braided piece that we're going to be using at the bottom and for a hang-up handle for our basket. So once I braided all the way down, I tied a knot on the other side. And now we're at the bottom of the basket. We're going to pinch it closed. So you can see here that I'm adding hot glue, and then I'm using my pliers to just pinch it down in there nice and tight. I want it to be nice and secure. Once I went all the way around and I glued all of that into place, I was able to then go on with my braided rope that I just did, that you saw me do. And now we're just going to glue that around the bottom to make it have a really nice finish. And this is going to make it look like you weaved it at the bottom, having this braided rope here. Now I will give a shout out to my girl Yami from the Latina next door. She was the first person I ever saw take this raffia grass skirt from the Dollar Tree, and she braided it and made a really cute project. I'm going to link her video down below so you all can check out her project and how she used hers, because she definitely deserves a shout out. So go give her some love and let her know. That's linked in that video down below. I'll make it easy for you all to find it. Okay, at this point I wanted to give it that cute farmhouse look, because y'all know I love that. I'm taking some gingham fabric and I'm just cutting it down to size and wrapping it over the top. Now at this point I'm going to take that extra piece of that braid that we used towards the bottom, and I'm going to put it on the back. You could see there for a second I was thinking about maybe adding a darker rope to it, and then no, I still decided to stick with this lighter grass raffia. I really liked the way that it looked. And then I just tied another knot where I cut it off the extra from the bottom. And now I'm gluing it onto the back with a lot of glue. I want to make sure it's on there nice and secure, so this is going to be hanging up somewhere in my home. I think I'm going to hang it on the island in my kitchen. You'll most likely be seeing this in a home decor real soon. So then once I glued on that back part, and I also disguised it with an extra piece of fabric so it looks really polished, I took this round piece of foam that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I put it down inside the basket because I wanted it to stay open and nice and chubby looking. We're going to use the word chubby, but I wanted it to look, you know, full. So now at this point I'm just taking some eucalyptus that I found really cheap during all of these sales they've been having, some hydrangea, and then some of the cotton stems from the Dollar Tree. Now we can stop here or add a little something extra, which you all know I love to do. I'm taking one of these little garden tags that they were selling at springtime. I popped off the back, added lots of hot glue, and just put that right on the front of my basket. Our next project is so easy, very friendly to anyone who's a new crafter. I'm going to be using these books from the Dollar Tree, scrapbook paper that I had on hand, and then some lacy ribbon, as well as some rope I'll show towards the end. Now friends, I know anytime I ever rip apart a book on here, some of us cringe because I know some of you really love books and think that books should never be treated this way. But I want to promise you I would never rip up a book that is meaningful to our family, and but I really love decorating with books. I really just think that it is so farmhouse chic, and I love text paper, loved it for years. So if this is a hard one for you to follow along with, no worries, I totally understand. I won't be offended if you don't like this one. But for anyone who does like decorating with books, or you can find books that have really pretty covers on them, you can also avoid having to pull them off. But I really love having that raw book look to them, like they're really old books that you found that were just kind of abandoned in an old house, I guess. I don't know. I'm just taking these books, I'm roughing up the edges, I'm taking some scrapbook paper, cutting it down. I picked specific colors that I know I'm going to be decorating in this next couple of weeks in my home. I'm getting ready to switch my decor again. I always love switching up my stuff, almost like it's a store that you could walk into and things are always being changed up. So I'm going with a lot of greens and yellows and just neutral type summery colors, and I'm just going to stack them up kind of wonky. I love the idea of these being wonky, like they just kind of got dropped down on a table somewhere, and that's how they landed. So you can see here that I'm just roughing up all the sides, all the edges, and I'm playing around with how I want them to lay. And then as soon as I get them in a spot that I want, I'm going to glue them down, and then I'll do the next one, shift it around a little bit, do the next one, shift it around a little bit. Now I will say I wanted to make sure that I could also stand them up, so I was making sure that one side was as flat as I could, but still where the books were kind of wonky and shifted around. The two end books, I made sure those were flat at the same distance or the same height on one side so I could stand it up. Then you can see here I'm adding some lace and some rope. The rope, when I went all the way around it, I noticed that it was causing it to be kind of tilted. So I decided to cut it. I'm fraying it out and gluing it in place so that way it will lay nice and flat when I put it down on its side. And then at the top, I'm just going to take some rope. I folded it in half, as you can see here. I'm going to do a simple loop knot, and then I'm going to cut off the extra, but before I pulled it too tight, I was adding in a lot of hot glue into the middle. That way so it stays nice and tight, and it's a really good secure knot, because this rope can slip out of knots sometimes. And like I said, this is going to be a decor piece I'm going to use forever and ever. Once everything was all glued and nice and tight, I cut off the bottom, and then I'm just going to simply add it right on top of my books, and I at that point can decorate it somewhere in my home. For our next DIY, we are going to be using this stair spindle or stair rod. I don't know. I always call things so crazy here on my channel. And these wood rounds that you can get at the Dollar Tree. This DIY is going to be so easy and so quick that when you see how quick I make these candle stems, you're going to think, why do stores charge $30 to $40 for these? So here I am. I'm just going to take this and cut it in 2 places because we're going to be making 2 really beautiful farmhouse candle stems. All you need to do is cut them down to the desired length that you want, and then you're going to take a drill and you're going to pre-drill holes on both sides. This is going to allow you to be able to make sure the wood doesn't splinter, and it will also help you just kind of guide the screw in easier so that your candle stems don't end up wonky or crooked, because we don't really want that when we're dealing with candles. I would also recommend that the non-lighting candles, the battery lit LED candles, are really pretty on these too. If you don't feel comfortable with putting an open flame on them, that's totally understandable. These are just so cute on a mantle. So now at this point, I'm going to also pre-drill holes into the wood rounds from the Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to go in with a bigger drill and I'm going to do a countersink hole. I'm not going all the way through, I'm just barely going through the top, and then I'm kind of wiggling my drill around a little bit to create a larger opening, and this is going to allow your screw to sink down in there. That way you won't see the screw sticking out and it won't scratch your table, and it'll have a nice finished look. Once you've got all of those done, go ahead and take your screw, and I'm going to use a really nice long screw because I want to make sure these are really secure and strong. I'm going to go ahead and start drilling through the round first. Then you're going to see here I'm going to take the bottom and I'm going to just line up that pre-drill hole that you saw earlier. I'm going to hold my hand back so it's not in place of getting hurt, and then I'm going to go ahead and just drill it all together. This is so easy to make, friends, and each candle stem cost me, I'm going to say $2.50 to make, because each round was $1, and then the stem, the railing stem or spindle, that was $1 from my local refurbished store. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and just screw on all of the other tops and bottoms. I'm using a wood round at the top and the bottom because I thought that this just looks so chunky and really pretty. And then now I'm going to just take some white paint and just add a little bit to it. I actually like the wood color tone that was on the wood rounds from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to add some paint around it, not covering up the whole thing. And then because the spindle itself was already kind of an off-white pretty color, I'm just going to simply go in and just add a little bit of white paint so it looks, you know, distressed, farmhouse looking. And then that's pretty much it. You're ready to add your candles and display. The supplies for this DIY are going to be 4 of these jars from the Dollar Tree, which I love buying them there. I think these jars are so cute. Some fabric, I'm going to go with a black and white buffalo check, and then some florals. Now, sunflowers have been on my mind. I think it's just because they're so happy and I need that sunshine in my life right now while I'm still trying to be really good about staying in and sheltering at home during this whole thing. So I'm now going to take some foam core After I have spray painted my jars white, I'm going to insert those in, and I'm going to take this fabric and I'm going to cut 4 strips just like you see me doing here, and I'm going to use that to tie around the necks of these jars. Now friends, I'm doing this project today because I want you to know that sometimes craft projects can be really overwhelming. Too big, too complicated, too crazy, right? But I also want you to not be discouraged if you're a new crafter. I want you to try crafting. I want you to try doing things that are just cute to make your house a home. So here I am. I just spray painted these jars white, and now I'm taking some fabric and simply just wrapping them around. And I'll tell you, they sell these jars over at home decor stores for way too much money. I made these whole arrangement that you're going to see here at the end for maybe about $5.50, and they would sell this way more, probably like 30-40 bucks. So here I am. I have painted them. I've tied these little scarves, I would say, maybe around the necks of these jars, and then I'm now going to insert some foam. And then I found this new floral at the Dollar Tree. I was just so in love with these. They're so pretty. There are other colors too. They definitely have them in other colors. I think there's like a really pretty mauve color, a blue color, maybe a purple color. I can't remember. If you go on the Dollar Tree's website, you can see all the different colors that they have, but I love these. They almost look like a very opened rose or a peony. I think they're so pretty. So I'm just adding those in, and then I'm popping in 1 sunflower because I just want that little pop of sunflower in there. I'm adding in some of these cute berries, and then at this point, you know, I just am playing with it, having fun, adding more things. I also decided to add in a cotton stem. I don't think they had these last year at the Dollar Tree, but it's a really long stem and they are so cute. I decided that I wanted 2 of my jars to have these in it, so I'm just going to pop those right in. And then at this point, you can display these however you want all over your home. But remember that tray? I'm going to use them in this tray to corral them together because I just think they're so cute to put this on a table somewhere in my home or an entryway. I love how they look all together. So I hope you try these DIYs out today because they are just so fun, and these particular ones that I did today are really easy to follow, and I hope you give crafting a try because it's meant to help us relax and just do something that we're proud of to bring into our home. These are the supplies we're going to be using today: long wood stakes and some shelf brackets that I picked up from the local home improvement store. Go ahead by starting with cutting them open and taking 2 of those long stakes and cut off the tips. These are going to be the pieces of wood that go all the way across that picket fence that makes it look like it. And then the extra ones that we have inside the pack, we're going to just space those all out, making sure they're nice and straight and even and leveled the best you can. And then you're going to take some wood glue and put them on first, and then a little bit of hot glue for that short-term, long-term hold. Make sure everything's in position, and then go ahead and hammer everything down with a nail that has a nice wide top nail head. You want to make sure that if you use a smaller nail, you don't want the nail head to be little, because when you do, over time, if it gets dropped or moved, those nail heads will maybe slip or break out. So I like to use a nice wide nail head, and you're going to do 2 on every single one of those joints. This way it's super sturdy and super strong. And this whole project cost me about $8.50 to make, which is just so fun. Now we're going to take another stick and we are going to measure it down the insides of those outer stakes. We want it to be just short enough that it would fit right in between those 2 end spots, because that's going to become the brace, the feet at the bottom of this picket fence. So first I cut down that line, And then I also cut down 4 more pieces that were all the same size. These are the feet that we need. That is going to be able to make it stand up nice and strong without it falling over or having any issues with having to lean it on your house or anything like that. So what I'm doing is, again, adding some wood glue, adding some hot glue, and then I'm coming in with my staple gun and I'm making sure I'm stapling it in certain places so that it is nice and snug on there. And when you're done, it should look like a giant letter I. Now at this point, I can go ahead and bring on the bracket and the fence. I had my son actually holding it for me so that I didn't have any issues with it falling over. And then I'm going to just go ahead and screw in my screws so that way it's nice and tight. Well, as you can see here, it's standing up without any issues, and it is super sturdy, friends. I was so excited how sturdy this thing was. I kind of saw it in my head. I was hoping it was going to be nice and strong and secure, and it actually was. So now at this point, I can go ahead and paint. You're going to see my family walking back and forth a lot, and you're also going to see from this angle my giant cup of water that I always keep next to me whenever I'm crafting. I love water. These are the supplies we're going to be using for our DIY today. All of them come from the Dollar Tree except for my Crop-A-Dile tool and the free printable that I'm going to link down below in the description box. This tool, I love it. It's one of my favorite. You can see here on the Frisbee that I'm punching out 3 holes that are going to be evenly spaced across. And we're going to use it to be able to put the chain on it and to hang it up. So make sure your holes are in the right spot. Once you've got them all punched, put your chains on it and hold it up to make sure that it's nice and evenly balanced and not hanging one way more than the other. You'll know if it is, then just shift one of the holes over a little bit. Then you're going to take that free printable and you're going to simply cut it out as close as you can to the line, and then you're going to hot glue it down onto a piece of foam core board. And once you've got that glued down on there nice and tight, you're going to go and take your X-Acto knife and just trace and cut around it to pop it out to be able to have that nice clean circle. Then you're going to take it and make a second one. You're going to put it on that piece of foam core over to the side and then trace and cut that out as well. And then you're going to take 2 long tongue depressor sticks. These things you can get from the Dollar Tree. They're thicker than a regular popsicle stick, and you're going to cut it in half, place one on top of the other, and again with this Crop-A-Dile tool you're going to punch out a hole. Is this just the coolest tool ever? It even goes through popsicle sticks, things like this that are a thinner wood, which I just love. Then you're going to glue the 2 pieces together, and you're going to do that 2 times. So you'll have those 4 pieces that become 2 pieces, and you are then going to glue them onto your circle. So you're going to glue them on that backside piece first, and you're going to glue one at the top and the bottom as centered as you possibly can. You want them to be nice and straight and centered. And then you're going to take more hot glue and glue on your scale face plate. So then go ahead and just make sure it's as centered as possible, line it up. And then I actually ended up using some paper clips, or not paper clips, the ones where you can clip on to make sure you add some added pressure to make sure it's nice and glued. So I took my Frisbee at this point and I spray painted it outside so that it would be a nice pretty neutral black color. And then I'm just going to take my chain and I'm going to hook it onto that bottom popsicle stick or tongue depressor stick, and I pinched my hook in place. And then I'm just going to take another chain that I had left over from another project. I have them all the time because I'm always using these chains from these planner hanger hooks, and I'm just going to break apart one of the chains so it's a little bit less. And again, these supplies all came from the Dollar Tree. So you're then going to just hook another chain and hook up at the top. And then you can see here that I have this cute little garden wood stick sign. I'm going to break off a piece of that. I liked this little stick because the end of it had a point. So I thought this would be really cute for our little meter on our scale. And I'm just going to paint that black and glue it down into place and put it right down on there. I just love how this turned out, and it was so ridiculously cheap to make, and it really can handle quite a bit of weight on it. Our next DIY is a super simple one, but it has so much impact being able to style and decorate in your home. We're going to take these cute little buckets, some greenery, some foam, and some wooden dowels, and we're going to take that foam and we're going to cut it down so that it fits nicely inside the bottom of the bucket. And we're going to do 2 of these since there's 2 in a pack. I thought, why not? We'll just make a pair of them. It'll be so cute to style this somewhere in my home for the summer season. Now, the idea behind this was I thought that this greenery kind of looked like a mini version of a fiddly fig. And I thought how cute to make little tiny fiddly fig trees to display somewhere in your home with a farmhouse twist to it. So here I am, I'm just plucking these off. Now this greenery, again, because of all of the crazy sales that are going on right now where people are just trying to clear out their shelves to prep for newer seasons coming, these greeneries, I ended up picking them up for $1.75. They were originally $13.99. I could not even believe how cheap they were. And so I snagged up a few of them so I can use them here in my craft room. So if you feel comfortable going out, I definitely recommend going out and pick up some greenery like this because I use these all the time in my crafts. So as you can see, I plucked off all of these little stems, and then I'm adding some hot glue, and I'm just keeping them all at the same length, and I'm wrapping them all the way around the wooden dowel. Once everything's been glued on, I'm going to take some of this cute gingham ribbon that I have on hand, and I'm just going to simply wrap it around. This gingham ribbon, I picked it up from Joann's, but you can find this kind of ribbon all over the place in different craft stores. So I'm just going to wrap it around and then hot glue that last little bit, snip it off, and then to finish that look, I'm going to add a little bow up at the top because I think that is just so cute and farmhouse. Then once I've got my bow on, I'm going to go ahead and add some hot glue onto the foam square that I put inside. Wiggle it around a little bit and push it down in there. Make sure you're being aware and conscious of the bucket handle where you want it to be. Otherwise it could end up looking kind of funny if you glue it down wrong. And then I'm going to add some glue at the bottom of my foam square to make sure it stays in there nice and snug. Now this next part can be a little bit tricky, but not really. I just put a whole bunch of hot glue, dropped in some rocks, added more hot glue, dropped in more rocks, and then went around into those little crevices, making sure I squirt in a lot of hot glue so everything is glued in there nice and tight. Because you want to be able to flip the bucket upside down without rocks falling out everywhere, so just make sure you hot glue everything down into place. They were selling these for about $15, not on sale, and I know that we can make them for pennies, super cheap, super affordable, and the look is identical. So you're going to go ahead and take some black foam core board, cut it down to size. I did a 5x7 size, and then for the corners I just matched it up on my cutting mat, and then from corner to corner in the box I cut a nice line on both top corners of my tag. Then to create the hole for your rope, you're going to take the ruler circle that you saw there, and you're just going to cut around after you've traced it. Then once you've got everything all cut out, you're going to go ahead and paint it. Now I'm going for that chalkboard look, and how I do that with paint is I mix cream with black. It has more of a slate gray color versus using white and black. I feel like it looks a little more washed out. Once the paint is all dry, I'm then going to take my pencil and I'm going to sketch on the number for our family members. So I'm going to do number 5. I thought this would be so cute year-round to display somewhere in my home, on a shelf, on a table, but I just love the way it looks. And this is the thing, friends. I know that so many people have crickets or silhouettes, but there are a lot of people who still don't have them. I have them in my home and I'm so grateful to have them, and I feel very blessed to have them, but I want everyone to see that if you don't have a super fancy cutting machine, using paint and a fine tip paintbrush is all you need, because you can get the same look. And you know, maybe in the beginning you'll feel, you know, that painting it by hand is a little tricky, but the more you practice, the more you keep painting and trying, the better and better and better you're going to get at it. And I just keep playing with it until I get the look that I want. And the other tip is whenever you're painting white on black, sometimes the black can bleed through a little, so I'm making sure I go over it a few times to make sure that it's nice and crisp looking. I like it when it's got that nice crisp white look on the slate gray. And then at the N and the O, I'm just taking my time because they're smaller letters. And then the little dot, I'm just going to flip my brush around and tap on a little dot with the end of my brush. So again, don't feel intimidated with having to go out and buy machines to be able to create this look. You can paint them by hand and save yourself even more money, and this really is a super cheap project to do and has such a cute impact on your decorative shelves. Now I'm going to take some brown paint and I'm going to simply just tap a couple corners here and there to give it that rustic look, as if it's been weathered by the salty air. And then to go along with that coastal farmhouse look, which I love, and I know that's also Yami's jam and style on her channel, I'm going to take some of this nautical rope that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. I slipped it through, looped it, and then I'm twisting it back together and tying a knot at the top. And then to continue on with that nice weathered beachy feel to it, I'm going to just fray out the tips of the rope. Now this rope came from the Dollar Tree as well as the other supplies that I'm going to be using in this video, but I love this rope because there are 3 ropes twisted together, and when you untwist it, it triples the value of this rope. So it's a really great rope. You can use it really thick or you can lessen it. Now I decided to do one more version of these tags just to show you all that these have so much potential. I think they're so cute to put around your home. I'm going to take some more white paint, and see here, I'm not doing any pencil sketches on it. I'm just freehanding this, and this has just come with time of me practicing and practicing and just enjoying painting letters and numbers by hand. So I'm just going to take my time and just write out the word welcome. And again, feel free to write it with pencil first and then paint it on. Now a fun tip is to take the greenery that you can get from the Dollar Tree and glue the ends together. And this is how I create a mini vine from the Dollar Tree. Right now there's spring florals that they're just bringing out, their bundles of florals. They have these leaves on them. They have all colors, pink, blue, white, yellow. And these leaves are so cute, and when you glue their tips together you can create a vine. So I'm just gluing them together to create a little wreath. I'm going to add on a lace bow. This lace is also from the Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to add on another one of those ropes to give it that nautical feel, but yet have that farmhouse flair that I think so many of us love. And then I'm going to distress it once again with that brown paint to give it that rustic, beachy, weathered, salty air look. These are the supplies we're going to be using for our project. A galvanized tin bucket from the Dollar Tree, as well as these wood beads that they have in their craft section. Now, when you go to take off the handle, I have realized that this wire on this bucket was actually really strong, well quality wire. So when you're taking it off, just make sure you don't bend your bucket too rough, because it can cause an issue with the original punch holes to rip or tear. But you're going to want to make sure that the end of this handle is straight as possible. So what I did, I actually just cut off the original bend fold area so that way I had a nice clean line to be able to fish on all of these beads. So I'm going to use a medium and a large, and I'm going to just keep going back and forth in the two sizes until I get to the very end of my wire. This part is really fun and easy to do, and I found that I had extra beads left over, which was really great. So at this point, when you're finishing putting them all on, you're gonna want to make sure you have about an inch at the very bottom of your handle, because you need to be able to put that back on the bucket to bend the wires in. Another tip is, when you get to the end and you have that inch, go ahead and just bend in those wires on the end. Don't bend them all the way up, but just enough to be able to hold the beads in place while you're bending everything together. So you can see here that I bent it first a little bit, put it on, and then now I'm tightening the rest to make sure it all fits on there nicely. Then at this point, once your wires are nice and tight and snug on there, you can go ahead and move on to the next step, which is going to be taking it outside and giving a nice coat of spray paint. Once everything is nice and dry, go ahead and take 3 different shades of brown. I'm using a light, a medium, and a dark. And we're going to use the first one, the lightest one, to coat all of the beads and all the crevices all the way over the whole thing. You're going to do it on both of the sides. This is going to create a really nice wood look when you have these 3 different tones versus just only painting it one color, which will make them look like they're not real and they just were painted. Here I am, I'm using a dry brush technique for the next color up. I'm just lightly brushing it on and using a napkin to wipe off anything that's too saturated on my paintbrush. And I'm just taking my time going over it and dabbing on different tints and shades of the brown, because this will really make it look just like wood. Now at this point, we are going to decorate the bucket. I think this is so cute. I have seen some of these buckets online with this really cute buffalo check or stripes or gingham on it, and they're so expensive. I could not believe it. And when I realized, wait a second, I can use the bucket from the Dollar Tree, I knew that this would be perfect. So at this point, we're going to just take a nice angled paintbrush and we are going to paint black lines. And friends, you could do this in any color you want. I thought this could be really cute to do this exact same DIY, but maybe in Christmas red or a Christmas green, and that could be really pretty too. So here I am, I'm just painting on my nice thick lines, and once I've gotten all the way around the bucket, I'm gonna now reverse the other direction. I do recommend letting it dry just a tiny bit. At this point, once I got all the way around, it was dry enough to be able to go, because otherwise you could create some streak lines and that won't look so good. But remember, you don't have to do this super perfect. I'm just freehanding this. If you want to use painter's tape to make it look really clean and crisp, you can totally do that. But I was going for a little bit more of a wonky or playful look to it. I didn't want it to be too crisp on the lines because I like the idea of it being, like I said, just a little more wonky. So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and go in and add in my gray so that way I can have a really pretty buffalo check look. So I'm just going on all of the areas that are not connecting points. And I realized afterwards I probably could have done the gray lines first and then added the black. I probably would have had a lot less to paint. So just keep that in mind. Whatever colors you're working with, the lighter color is the one that actually needs to be seen the most. Now we're going to move on to a different size bucket from the Dollar Tree. This one I also spray painted on the outside. I left the inside where it's galvanized. I thought that would be really cute. And I'm going to use a smaller brush. The reason why I'm going to be doing this one is because I want to show you how just switching up the brush size can really change the look of a bucket. Again, I'm going for that cute wonky look because I'm planning on using these throughout the summer going into the fall time and Halloween time. I thought these would just be so cute to have a more playful line on them. And again, if you want to have a straighter line, you can totally use painter's tape, but I want you to see how just me going quickly over the bucket, what a cute look this can be too. And if you have any mess ups, just take a wipey and wipe it off. When you're using a spray paint as the base, it allows you to wipe it away nicely. So once I've gotten all the way around, I'm now going to switch my direction and I'm going to create my lines going the other way. I really loved doing this. I thought this was so therapeutic and just calming, and I had so much fun just taking my time going around. Now the trick with painting a line around in a circle, you're going to want to keep your pinky in the same exact spot as you're going, because that's going to give you the nice spacing that you need as you're turning your bucket, and that will keep your line straight. So you can see here I keep using my pinky as I'm going. I keep putting it out and touching it out, and then as I get further and further over, I just kind of keep eyeballing it at this point, but because I had a really good jump point from the bottom where I try to keep the line as straight as possible. And as you keep moving up the bucket, it just gets cuter and cuter as you go. Now we could leave it like this, or we could add a little bit more detail to it. But again, can you imagine if you did this with red, how cute this could be for Christmas time? Or if you decided to do different colors and created more of a plaid look to the bucket. There are so many cute things you can do with these buckets from the Dollar Tree, and they're just only $1. So this is the point. We're going to add some twine around the handles. Just twist it around and around and glue it down into place to have a nice completed cute handle, and your buckets are ready to be displayed. We're going to be moving on to our next project. I am super excited about sharing this one. I love these in my home, and I have had so many people asking me about them and where I've bought them. So today I'm going to teach you how to make one. Today we're going to be making a sign that you can hang up in your hallway in front of a bathroom or a kitchen, wherever you would like it to be. So you're going to take this oval wood plaque that you can get at the Dollar Tree. All of these supplies, by the way, are coming from the Dollar Tree, just like normal here on my channel. You're going to take off those staples and that twine at the back, and then using a drill, you're going to drill in 2 holes. Once you've got 2 holes drilled, you're going to go ahead and paint your sign white or whatever color you would like it to be. Then we're going to take this chain that they have also at the Dollar Tree, and we're going to take it apart. It's in their garden section, and we're going to take one of these hanging plant hooks, and we're going to just take it all apart and make it work so that we can hang up our cute little wood sign onto it. So what I'm doing here is I'm just measuring out my chain and how long I want it to be, and then I'm going to just undo the hooks, the loops that are there, and I'm going to get the desired length that I want. And then I'm also going to take that hook at the end and reverse it to the other side. That's just because I felt like the chain was put on backwards. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but this is just how I decided to do it. I reversed it to the other side. So I'm going to make sure both sides are the same length. You don't want one to be longer than the other, because otherwise your sign is going to be hanging crooked. And then once you've got that length that you want, you're just going to wrap it around, take that hook that you have that's opened, feed it onto the chain on the other side, and then close it, and then add on those hooks at the end. Now we're going to put that to the side for a second, and we're going to move on to our sign. We're going to go ahead and use those really cute letters that they have at the Dollar Tree, and you're just going to stick them right on. Now I've decided to do the sign bath, but again, you can put whatever you want, laundry room, kitchen, whatever you want, office. It could just be so darling doing this. And again, this was super cost efficient. The one that I have that is hanging up in my hallway, I will link that video down below where I show that sign. That sign cost me 26 bucks. This is going to cost me only $4 to make. So it really is cost efficient. So once you've got your letters on, go ahead and take some Mod Podge and just seal them in so they do not come off, because sometimes these letter stickers can peel off. And then once that Mod Podge is dry, you're going to open up those hooks at the bottom. You're going to feed on your sign, bend them back into place, and then make sure everything is nice and straight. And to keep the chains from sliding around, I used some E6000. That really locked them into place. I do recommend screwing it into the wall first and then doing the E6000. For this project, we are going to be making a lantern, and we're going to take these long paint sticks. these painter stir sticks. I hear people call them all kinds of different things, but they come from the home improvement stores locally to you. And we are going to take the long ones and cut down 8 of them. These are going to become the side structures for our lantern that we're making. And then once you've got 8 of those all cut down to the size that you need, and they need to all be the same size, you're then going to go ahead and take some wood stakes that you would use in your garden. I see a lot of people use these around their gardens, but these are wood stakes that you can also pick up from your home improvement store. And I'm going to be using a combination of wood glue and hot glue for that long-term, short-term hold to make sure that it nice and strong bonds together. We are going to have 6 of those. This is going to be the base of our lantern. I'm going to leave all the measurements down below so that it's not making this video too complicated. So if you're needing the measurements, go ahead down to the description box and you'll see them down there. But I'm going to go ahead and glue all of those 6 pieces together to create a very pretty, nice, solid base. Now you could do these with the painter sticks. I decided to use these wood stakes instead because I just liked how they were more substantial, thicker, sturdier looking. I just liked how they looked. But again, you can use painter sticks if you would like. So once you got all of those all wiped and cleaned up, because you could see there that I was pulling off some of that extra glue that kind of squirted out, you're going to go ahead and start gluing on the sides. So again, I'm using the wood glue with the hot glue, long-term, short-term hold. And then to make it really strong and sturdy, we are going to take our staple gun and we are just going to staple in 2 staples on it to make sure that it's nice and strong. And by the time we're done with this thing, it is going to be so sturdy and it is just going to be so pretty on your front porch or wherever you decide to use it in your home. So now I'm putting on the other side and I'm just making sure that the sides match up, and then I'm going to move on to the next. And I'm just going to keep putting the 2 corners on, making sure that the sides match up with each other so that it is nice and smooth on the sides. And then you can see even as I'm going up, I'm putting little dots of that wood glue and hot glue to make sure that the top and the bottom and the sides are all glued together, and then adding 2 staples at the bottom. So as I get around the corner to my 4th leg, I noticed something started to happen with this, and I thought I would just mention it all so you would know. And I noticed that towards the top you could see that they're starting to bow in towards the top. So when you go to glue on these support pieces, which I'm doing right here, I cut down 8 of these smaller painter sticks because I wanted to wrap them around the bottom and the top to create a nice, pretty finished look and a structure to it. I cut 8 of these, but you can see here that it's a little bit not all the way up to the edge because I want, again, I'm going to show you in a second, add another piece to it. But up here at the top, when I went to go put up this piece, you can see that it's not fully lining up. So I had to actually pull it out from each other and make sure that it was not crooked. And that just happens with wood. Sometimes it'll just shift on you. So you're going to see here that as I staple it, I'm going to pull it out. You can see what I'm talking about. It wants to kind of collapse in a little bit. So just make sure you pull it out, glue it into place with that hot glue so it'll hold it into place while the wood glue dries, and then just staple it. And then I just flipped it over and did it on the other side, making sure everything was nice and straight and all glued and stapled together. Now, like I said earlier, you saw that I had a little bit of a spacing between those top parts, and I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to fill them in with some really pretty smaller square pieces of wood that I just happen to have in my craft room. You don't have to do this. You could make those painter sticks that are coming around the bottom and the top the exact length, but I wanted to have a little bit more detail, so I'll show you that in a second. But right now at the top, we're going to take some more of those wood stakes, and I'm going to use my miter box. Now there's a straight cut and then there's a 45-degree angle cut, and you can see that I'm just going to cut at an angle, and I'm going to allow this to create a miter edge at the top, which is going to make it look so high-end and pretty. I love this little cutting toolbox. I'm going to link it down below, as well as my staple gun. I get asked about it all the time. And then see here, all the 4 pieces all cut with that little side angle. Now they are all going to miter together beautifully and look super high-end. So here I am, I'm adding some more of that wood glue, hot glue, and I'm just going to go around making sure every single side is pressed together really well so there's not a big gap. And then if you have any glue squirt out from pushing it together, just again wipe that away so it has a nice clean finish. And then once you get around to that last side, I'm going to set this over to the side just for a minute while I go back over to my actual lantern and add on this piece right here. So here is the piece I was talking about. I had this in my craft and I thought this would be really pretty. So on those 8 pieces that I cut down to size to wrap around the bottom and the top, 4 of them I cut a little bit shorter and the other 4 cut a little bit longer so that I can put this piece on there. I thought this would look so pretty to add on this little detail where you have this little corner that's kind of popped up, and it's just going to fit in there nicely. I'm adding in some more hot glue and some wood glue once again because I just want to make sure that this is built really well. And I mean, this cost nothing. At this point, these are just seriously painter sticks, stirrer sticks, and these wood stakes. And look at how we can build the most coolest things from it. Now, I could leave it like this, or we can make it a little more special. You know how I like to do it here on my channel. I like to take it a little further and just challenge myself a little bit more each time. So I'm going to take these long sticks. They're not shish kebab sticks. I always forget what these ones are called. Leave a comment down below. I think stakes? Nope, that's not it either. Either way, these long shish kebab sticks, we're just gonna go with that name, but they're the really long sticks, and I'm just gonna cut them down to size because I want to create a really pretty crisscross design work on the inside of this lantern and just add a little more something special to it. I thought that this would be really pretty. So you're going to need 2 for each opening on your lantern, and you can see here that I'm simply just measuring it on the inside of the box first for my first cut, and now I'm just going back and cutting everything down to size so that it all fits perfectly inside of those spots. Once I had enough of them all cut, I'm going to add in some hot glue into the corners, and then I'm going to put them at an angle. I'm going to go one way. Make sure you hold it into place so it's nice and set. Add a little more glue on top of it so it's nice and glued in place so it doesn't move around on you or lift up. And then you're going to go the other direction, the other corners, and you're going to add some more hot glue and then just press them down. Now these are going to want to not lay flat, that second one, so you're going to have to hold it down for a little bit while the glue dries. But again, this was super simple to do. So once I went all the way around with all 4 of those, I added some glue to the top, and then I put on my miter top that we made earlier. And at this point, it just looks so pretty. I was so excited for this project, and as my family was coming down to check on me to see how I was doing with this project, they all started saying, "Oh, it's a lantern," which I had this thing for lanterns. They weren't sure at first what it was. My husband thought at first it was a trophy box, which I laughed because you never know with me. So once I gave it a nice coat of paint, I'm going to take some rope from the Dollar Tree and I'm actually going to braid it. I thought it would be really pretty to have a nice thick substantial rope on this. I braided it, brought the ends together, and just hot glued them so that they were nice and secured. And then I actually used 1 rope bundle from the Dollar Tree. I took 3 long pieces that were equal length, and then this was the little piece that was left over. I just unwrapped it, and I'm going to use that to bring it all together at the end, those little scraps that you saw me there pulling apart from the rope. So I wrapped it around the top of my lantern. I added in some hot glue to make sure it stays there forever. I don't want it to come off. And then I'm going to add some more hot glue right here, and that scrap piece of rope that was left over after I braided these, I'm going to just wrap that around a few times to make a very pretty finished look up at the top. I loved how this turned out so much. And then you don't have to do this part, you can skip it, but y'all know me, I just love a little roughed up edges, especially because I love that coastal look. The supplies for this project are so simple, and I'm so excited to share this. I actually woke up one morning with this idea in my head. I swear I dreamed about it. I actually dream about a lot of my crafts when I come up with ideas, and I always joke with my husband that it was sent from heaven. So what you're going to do is you're going to take everything out of 3 exact same frames from the Dollar Tree, except for the glass. You're going to leave it in one of the frames, and you're even going to pull off the tabs on all of them except for the very last one. So you're going to keep one frame with the little tabs, and you're going to keep one separate frame with the glass. Now the trick is you don't want to take the glass out. You're actually going to glue it down gently in the corners into the frame. So this is the very first one with the glass in it that you can see here. And I just put some hot glue in each little corner, and then I'm going around the back side of the frame with some E6000 and some hot glue for that long-term, short-term hold. And then I'm going to stack one of the frames, the second one that doesn't have any glass, and it doesn't have any of those little tabs on it on the back side. You're going to glue it right on top, and you can see here that it is nice and straight as best as you can. And then you're going to move on to the third one. Now the crazy thing about this is that we're making a shadow box. These shadow boxes can be so expensive. They can be anywhere from $20 if you use a coupon, all the way up to $30 to $50. I mean, they're just so expensive, and we're making ours today for $3. Like, I was so excited when I had this idea come to my head. So I am just now putting on the back last one, and you're going to make sure it's nice and glued all together. And if you see any excess of that E6000 dripping out, go ahead and just wipe it off, clean up the sides the best you can. At this point, you're going to take that back original piece and you're going to trace it onto a piece of foam core board so that it fits down inside your frame nicely. And then you're going to take that foam core board that you cut out, and you're going to glue it onto whatever piece of scrapbook paper you would like. Now I love scrapbook paper for these kind of projects that fit on size because the paper is a little bit bigger. So this is a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and you're going to cut off any extra that you don't need. And then when you flip it over, you'll have a really pretty base to be able to put whatever you want inside your shadow box. Now I'm going to use this darling picture of my sweet little girl. I just love her to pieces. I'm going to put a little tag in here, and then I'm going to take some ballet slippers that go along with the theme of the shadow box, and I'm just going to glue everything down into place. Now I always like to check before I glue to make sure things look like they're in the right spot, and I'm just going to add a little glue on both sides of the sole of the ballet slipper and just make sure everything's nice and in place. And then once it's all done, it'll be able to fit inside that shadow box perfectly. So this at this point is just so darling. And you can see here that I took my shadow box outside. I put a piece of paper inside and just made sure it was protecting the glass so I could spray paint the frame. Now I will say you could always spray paint the frame all before you glue everything together so that you can even spray paint the inside. And I think in hindsight I might have done that differently, but this is just the steps that I did. So just be mindful of where you spray paint and make sure that you protect the glass when you do finally spray paint, if you decide to change the color of your frame. And then once everything's all together, it looks so pretty. Now you can stop here and hang it up on the wall, or you can take it a step further, which I always like to do. And since she's so girly and this is such a girly little shadow box, I'm going to add some tape and twine ribbon to the back. And now at this point you could recover the back and make it look really clean. And then I added a cute bow at the top. Our next DIY is going to be using this chain. I'm taking it away from this planner wire hanger piece from the Dollar Tree, and you can see that I'm taking off these 2 hooks. Now what's interesting is I actually used one of these chains over in the first DIY from the scale. So these projects today are so cheap because this glass, these 2 pieces of glass, came from the shadow box. Those extra 2 pieces, I just hung on to them, and I'm going to use them to create a beautiful glass artwork. These things are so expensive. They're all the time sold on Pottery Barn, just really high-end companies. so cheap to make. I'm just creating little tabs up at the top to be able to hang it up with some ribbon, and I'm going to show you two different options to be able to hang it up and then also stand it up. So I'm just taking some E6000 and those little ribbons, and I'm just placing it all together. Make sure your glass is clean before you put your pressed garden pieces inside. And then at this point, you're going to see me using duct tape because, friends, I searched high and low for my electrical tape and could not find it. It was very frustrating. I even had my husband helping me look for the tape and we both couldn't find it. So I'm just going to show you that you don't have to have electrical tape to get that black look. You could always end up using duct tape, and it has a really great hold on your piece of glass. But you also could use electrical tape because at the end I ended up having to spray paint this to get that black look, and I had to put some things over it to protect the glass. But if you have electrical tape on hand, oh, that's even better. So what you're going to do is you're just going to cut down your pieces and you're going to line the edges of your glass, and you're going to just create that metal look around the sides. And the cool thing about this is that you could technically use washi tape too. Just make sure that you add a little extra like hot glue on the corners so that over time things don't curl up and curl away. But this is just the easiest project, and at this point it's basically free because it came from the shadow box and those extra 2 pieces of glass. How cool could this be for like a Mother's Day gift or a special person that you love, you know, birthday gift or Christmas gift? And you can put whatever you want inside that is a memory keepsake inside this glass to press it together, or you could also put it in that shadow box. So you can see here that I'm just adding the chains to the top, and this is the finished look with it hanging up. I love how this looks hanging up. I think it is so pretty. And now I'm going to show you the second idea. So you can leave it without the ribbon and the chain on it, and I'm just using some of these stacking blocks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue 6 of them together flat, and then I'm going to do another 6 of them where they're standing up, and this is going to be able to allow our frame to stand up. So you can see that I've got 3 there, and I'm going to turn it, and then I'm going to go the other side and add 3 more, and make sure you get your sizing right. And then once you do, you'll be able to have a really pretty stand. Now you can paint the stand or stain the stand. I liked the natural wood look with the stand. I thought it was so nice. This has a free printable that is linked down below in the description box, and we're going to also be using this ribbon and this bamboo tiki torch. Now we're going to start by cutting down that bamboo tiki torch. We want to make it where it's not too long, but it's still long enough where we're going to be able to hang all of these little printable clocks that I have put together for all of you. I saw this image on Pinterest where someone had been collecting vintage face plates from clocks, and I knew right away that I wanted to turn that into a DIY. I just thought they looked so pretty, and I loved the idea of them being a collection. So this printable is really easy. You're just going to cut everything out, and then you're going to glue them down onto a scrap piece of foam core board. I'm sure you probably have something like this in your craft room. I always have tons of little random pieces of foam core board because I'm always cutting things up and using them to mount things and just make things a little bit thicker. So once you've got everything all glued down onto your foam core, you're then going to take your craft knife and you're just going to cut them all out. Make sure you cut as close as you can to the actual printable so that way you have a nice clean look around the edges. And the thing that's really pretty about this is that you can hang this all over your house in so many different places. I think I'm going to hang mine in front of a mirror that I have in my front room. I'm going to be staging that really soon over on my home channel where I'm going to be decorating for the summertime. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make them look aged, distressed, We're going to take some of this brown paint and we are going to start dry brushing on very lightly, and we just keep putting on more layers the more distressed we want it to look. So you can see here that I start really light, and then I'm just going to keep adding on those layers until I get it to the look that I want it to be. And then to clean up the sides so that you don't notice the foam core and they look like they're actual face plates from a clock, I'm going to just take some of this black paint and go around the edge to cover up all of that foam core with that black paint. And then I'm going to do that to all of them. And I forgot to mention, when I was gluing down my clock faces, I was not gluing all the way down at the very top where the 1 and the 12 are. I left that part a little bit open because you are going to take some long ribbons. Now I have a lace ribbon and a silk ribbon. Both of these came from the Dollar Tree, and as well as the bamboo stick. I forgot to mention that the tiki torch also came from the Dollar Tree. And you're just going to glue in your ribbon, and then at this point we're going to start dangling them from our bamboo stick. This is the coolest part because you're going to get to play with it and decide what length you want and just have fun figuring out which place you'd like for each clock face to be able to hang. And I did a different mixture, like I said, of the silk and the lace ribbon. I thought they were just so pretty to add that extra texture, and it just looks so adorable. This is why I'm saying I think I'm going to hang this up in front of a mirror, because I just love how they're so substantial, and we are basically making this thing for just a couple of bucks. This is such an affordable statement piece to have in your home. Now at this point we're going to take some rope and we're going to create a way to be able to hang it up, and I'm just wrapping it around on opposite ends. And then this long boxwood garland, I'm just going to cut a couple pieces off. I'll link the one that I purchased. I'll link it down below if you're interested in it. I normally would get this from Hobby Lobby, but their stores are still closed here where I live. So I'm just going to take a couple of them and I'm tying them on, and then I'm going back in with some hot glue and I'm just reinforcing it with hot glue to make sure that it's really on there nice and tight. Now these are the DIYs that are coming up next here on this video. I wanted to show you them all together so that you can see how you can take such simple DIYs, and when you cluster them together, they look fantastic and you will get that cottage farmhouse feel. So this next DIY is using a canvas, and I just printed up 2 S's. Our last name is Sonboul, and so I wanted to print that up. And what I'm doing here is I'm just stripping away the fabric. I kept the main bulk of it, and I'm going to save that later for another DIY, and I ripped off the rest that was surrounding and stapled down. Now I'm going to take that frame and I'm going to trace it onto a piece of foam core board and cut it out so it's the same size as the back of that frame from the canvas. Now I'm just taking that printable that I did for myself, and I'm just going to simply cut it out and glue it on to the foam core board. Now this is the thing, I don't have this as a printable link down below because all it simply is just the letter S in the upper and lower case. I just thought this was so cute, a way to represent our family's last name. And there's just something so, I don't know, maybe because I've been homeschooling my kids this last couple months that I just thought this would be so cute. So now I'm just adding some glue after painting the frame and putting it on. And then to cover up that foam core on the side, I always love to have a finished look. I'm just painting it black. This next DIY is such a cute one to do and really simple. I'm just taking these little balls that you can get over in the floral section at the Dollar Tree, this little white bucket that you can get in the wedding section, and then some more of that boxwood garland as well as a stick. And then you can see here that I'm just gluing that stick down in and supporting it with some foam core, and then opening up a space in the ball and gluing that right down onto the stick. And then while I let that dry, I'm going to move on to cutting up that boxwood and just really getting enough of it to be able to cover all over the whole ball. Now, funny enough, Courtney over at Creative on the Cheap actually did a very similar DIY as this. And it was so funny. I saw it pop up in her feed, and I had been planning on doing this one for a while now. And we used the exact same mini ball to create these mini topiaries. Hers has a 3-tiered topiary, and it's so cute. You should go and check it out. There are so many potentials to do with these things, and her base is also a little bit different than mine, but I'm going to link her video down below because I just love to give other creators shout outs, and I just thought it was so funny that she and I both had this on our mind to make this. I thought this was a cute DIY to do because a lot of the times we try to do these really big DIYs, and sometimes I just love little simple things like this little topiary because you can place it and cluster it on shelves, and it's just so adorable. So once you've gone all the way around and you've filled in that little wood ball at the top, you're then going to take some hot glue and you're just going to fill in your little bucket with some rocks. I just think that this is the cutest, easiest DIY that anyone could do. Our next DIY is going to be using this sign from the Dollar Tree. Now, we're not going to be using the side that has the glitter. I ended up covering the back side of it with some foam core. You'll see it towards the end. But on the wood side that was blank, I'm going to paint that a nice gray color, and then I'm dry brushing on lines. Now, this is the coolest thing about this project, is that it is super easy to do. And the result is so pretty. Now you can see here that we want to get that streaky look. So like I said, I'm just very lightly adding some paint, and I'm just going back and forth because we're creating a natural buffalo check. So you can see that where they cross up, the white is a little bit brighter, and then on those in-betweens where the lines don't cross, it's got that lighter color of the white, and it just looks so cool. So here I am, I'm at the very end of my little signboard, and I'm just going to now add on this cute darling wreath with some boxwood. I wrapped a rope around it, flipped it around, added some hot glue, and then to give it a nice finished look, I'm adding some of this burlap ribbon at the back to really finish that. And then on the front, I'm just going to add a couple stickers from the Dollar Tree. I love this. This thing cost me almost nothing to make, and it looks so beautiful. This next DIY I am so excited to show you all because this is a new product at the Dollar Tree. They're selling these thicker pieces of wood in different shapes. So I'm going to use 2 of them with a plunger stick, and we're going to cut it down to size. Now these stickers are almost impossible to remove, so I'm going to just take my sandpaper and sand them off. And once I've got that done, I'm going to take my drill and drill a hole right in the center of the 2 circles that we have here, and then I'm also going to drill into the 2 ends of the dowel from the plunger stick, so that way when we put it together they will go in really easy. So here I am, I'm just using these little crates from the Dollar Tree to prop them up so I don't drill into my desk, and then I'm going to just simply screw that right into place. Now I sew. I don't know if you all know that, but I love to sew. I've been sewing since I was really little. My mom taught me when I was 6, and I just never stopped. I loved sewing so much I kept going. And so one of the things I have always loved are old spools. And these are those old spools that you're seeing sometimes on Pinterest. And I thought it would be so fun to give you all a printable. If you can find and track down these thick pieces of wood at the Dollar Tree, I just thought it would be so cute to make these into a vintage giant spool that has that collector's feel to it. I really love the idea of cottage farmhouse because whenever I would go into any type of home that was a cottage farmhouse type feel, there's a lot of collector's items in those types of homes. Just a lot of things to remember the past, and I thought this would be so cool to do this as a DIY for you all today. So now what I'm doing is I cut them out and I'm distressing my tags that I'm making for these spools, as well as the actual spool itself. And then we're just going to Mod Podge on those labels on the top and the bottom so it looks like an old vintage spool. I just think that these are so cute. And then you can use whatever you want, ribbon, rope, yarn, whatever you want to wrap around them. These are so easy to make, and you can make each spool for about, because you've got the 2 wood blocks, that's $1, and then the dowel, you can use one for both of them. So I'll say that it was probably like $3 to make, and then you wrap whatever ribbon around it you want. So here I am with my ribbon. I thought it would be really cute to finish it off by putting in some of my straight pins from my sewing box, and I just love how this turned out. You can make so many of these. These could be so cute, all stacked on a hutch, a shelf. Is going to be using this tote bag that you can get from the Dollar Tree and this large 11 by 14 frame. This is the easiest DIY to do, and in fact this is a 2-part DIY because tomorrow I'm going to show how I use the extra fabric from the bag to make that really beautiful vintage award ribbon. You saw a little bit earlier when I was talking about the video that's going up for tomorrow. So what we're doing is we're just going to take that fabric with that really pretty printing on it, and we're just going to simply pull it nice and tight around the backing of the frame and glue it all down into place. This is the easiest thing to do, and then you're just going to pop it right back in and push down your tabs, and I just love how it looks in this frame. It fits perfectly. Our next DIY is going to be using this galvanized bucket and these florals that the Dollar Tree has out right now. They are meant for the fall time, but I thought they lend well for summer as well. So I thought they would be so cute paired up together. We're going to take off the handle from this bucket. Now beware, this handle can be a little bit of a beast because the wire is really strong. I like to hold on to those wires because I can use them for other projects. But I'm going to go ahead and remove it. You can decide to leave the handle on if you want to, but I personally wanted to remove it. So here I am. I'm going to take this brown paint and I am going to just simply tap it up all along the edge because we're going to give this bucket a really pretty rusted look. I thought this was so cute for summer decor that lends well going into the fall time. Once you've tapped around your brown paint in all the desired areas that you like, you're then going to take a piece of foam square from the Dollar Tree and you're just going to hot glue that down in there, and then you can add in your florals. Now I'm cutting them away from their stem, the original stem that they come on. I never like putting them in like that because they look so fake, but when you cut them away with some wire cutters and place them down in there individually as sprigs, it looks so much more realistic and it looks high-end doing it this way. So I'm going to just fill in as many as I would like, and then I'm going to take one of these little garden sticks. I pick up a whole bunch of these little signs during the springtime and I just hold on to them all throughout the year because I love how they look when you put them on buckets or signs or just things. It's a cute little finishing touch. This DIY, we're going to be using this home sign from the craft section at the Dollar Tree, and then 9 of these stacking blocks, as well as a long, thick skewer. And all together we're going to create a cute way to display pictures in your home. So we're going to take that home sign and we're going to drill out some holes at the bottom. Don't drill all the way through. We just want to make sure we go deep enough to be able to insert 2 dowels that we're going to cut down to the exact same size. Put in some wood glue so it's nice and secure and nice and strong in there. This wood glue is now being carried at the Dollar Tree, which I was so excited to find that because I love using wood glue because it really does make things nice and strong. And then while the wood glue is drying and setting, I'm going to use some hot glue just to make sure that it stays in place. And then over on those blocks, we're going to take the 9 of them and we're going to use E6000 and hot glue. This is going to be able to bond them together. And the only reason why I didn't use wood glue on this was because these stacking blocks, half of them are raw wood and the other half have paint. So I figured that this would be a great way to make sure that they don't come apart since it's got that paint coat on it. If you use the raw wood ones, I would recommend using the wood glue instead of the E6000. But go ahead and just glue them all into place flat onto a table and then just keep wiping away any excess glue because you don't want that to be spewing out. And now at this point, we are going to start working on assembling the top and the bottom. Take those skewer sticks, line them up to the spot you want, use a pencil to create the drill hole line, and then you can see here that I used a painter stick to make sure I didn't go through my table because, well, that would just be a tragedy. No one wants to put a drill hole in their table. And once you've got those 2 drills all the way through the base, go ahead and add in your wood glue. And then just use a little bit. You don't want it to be spewing out all over the place. This glue does a really good job. And then you're going to just go ahead and take the skewers, poke them down into the hole, make sure they're in there nice and snug. And then once it's dry, you can go ahead and move on to painting. I'm going to use a bigger brush and a smaller brush to be able to get in all the crevices. I recommend using the smaller brush because it can be a little bit tricky. This home sign has a lot of really small tight corners and I think it just looks so polished when the whole thing is covered in the same color paint. So go ahead at this point, you can paint it whatever color you want. How cute could this be to customize this for your home and whatever colors you like to decorate with? And then I'm going to take some twine, a thinner twine, and I'm going to tie 2 lines across so it looks like a little clothesline. I thought this looked so farmhouse chic. I don't know why I thought this was so cute, but I just loved the way that it looked. So you're going to tie across those 2, and then to take it a step further, I'm going to put on 4 bows. I thought that this would be such a cute detail to add to these little clotheslines. Add some clothespins and some photos and display. I hope you enjoyed this video today. You made it to the end. I'm so grateful that you stopped by to watch this. Leave a comment down below to let me know what you think, and if you will try any of these, give this video a thumbs up, and until the next episode, bye friends.